I wonder if I haven't even had a chance to look at the documentation. I haven't even, I saw the email and I was like, okay, yeah, okay, fair. Oh, good, I don't feel so far behind. We join each other. Probably find a chair. Just like all of a sudden, That's the way it is. So I was like shaking at 10 o'clock at night.
Good evening and welcome to the Creswell City Council meeting, May 8, 2023. Would you please join me as we stand to the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming out tonight, and I know there's people who haven't been able to make it in. So we begin every council meeting with a public forum, which is 30 minutes total, allotted to hear from members of the public on any subject. There is a second opportunity to speak tonight, and I'm going to ask the question, how many of you are here tonight because you're interested in the camping ordinance? Would you raise your hand? Okay, that's what I guessed. So the second opportunity is before, if you haven't have an agenda, on the back page, when it comes to council action items, the first one, we put it first tonight because we guessed you were here for this reason. So we put it first when we get to it. But the council always has some preliminary things we have to go through before we get to action items. So under the action items, number one is the camping ordinance. And there's a public hearing on that. So while you have an opportunity to speak during public forum, my recommendation is that you wait until we get to this specific item so your comments are addressed specifically to what we're then under discussion. Otherwise, we're limited to 30 minutes for public forum at the beginning, 3 minutes per speaker, and with this many of you, I would have to have you select a few to represent you. So you really have an option. So I'm going to announce the two people first who are here to speak not on the camping ordinance. And then I'm going to say, are there any remaining members of the public who signed up for the public forum that want to speak on the camping ordinance right now? And if so, you can do that, but again, I'll have to limit your time. Does that make sense?
Is the time limited if we wait till later?
No. Okay?
Okay.
Good enough. All right, so we have two speakers. The first speaker is Deborah Yee, who wished to speak about the proposed transportation utility fee. Where's Deborah? If you come on up here and tell us your name, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Deborah Yee. I'm here tonight to speak about the proposed TUF fee for transportation utility. I am not.
Can't hear you.
Sorry. I'm here tonight to speak about the proposed TUF fee, the transportation utility fee. I am not against fixing our potholes or repairing our roads. I am, however, opposed to having our city council implement an ordinance without the vote by the people. From what I've read in the city council meeting minutes, the work session minutes, and the Chronicle newspaper articles, it feels as though it's being forced through by the power of the pen and not by the power of the people. We deserve transparency. Just because our roads maintenance issues are there and we have money shortfall and we failed to resolve these after many years and previous city councils does not mean that it should be hurried through now. Councilor Castillo's own admission in the city council minutes from March 13th states, and I quote, "There was no argument that we need to repair our roads in Creswell, but out of 50 people, only 2 knew about the TUF, which is concerning. I respectfully ask the council, the mayor, the city manager, and all to take a step back, work with the community to find a compromise, regain the trust through transparency, and then put forward a new approach for the vote." Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, and forgive me if I don't pronounce your name correct, is Stu Hogg. Is that correct? Wishing to speak about the correspondence.
Well, I'll wait till the public hearing.
Okay, you want to wait till the public hearing? Okay, so then I have all of these folks of you who would like to speak on the camping ordinance. Do any of you wish to speak now?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so let's see here. I know you're Lori, so I'll find yours. All right, so Lori Eichelberger, who was the other one? Was it, let me go ahead and get these. Your name?
Last name Shuck.
Shucker. I'm gonna have you help me with figures. Right here, Tim?
Yes.
Okay, anyone else who wishes to speak right now? This gentleman?
Richard Prout. I'm not on the list, but I have emailed a number of you yesterday.
Okay, we need to get a form filled out from you.
Okay, where do I go?
Over here.
Does someone grab one?
Somebody pass a form
Okay.
down,
Somebody
please.
grab
Pass one to him.
Someone else who wanted to speak? Your name, sir? Michael Morris.
Need a form? Yes. They need a form? Jim has someone in there.
You can fill out the form already.
Okay. That's
Okay, Michael.
Different.
Who else wants to speak right now?
Charlotte Gillum.
Charlie Gillen.
Here's Charlotte Gillen.
All right, who else?
Patty Buse.
Patty,
Buse.
That's not Patty, that's a different person that wants to speak.
Patty.
Patty Muse.
Anyone else?
I'd like to speak on the
Your name, sir?
Daniel Basaraba.
Daniel Basaraba, he doesn't have a form.
Do you have a form filled out?
Yep.
Okay, Bert, go ahead and bring it up.
Oh, he's got one.
This isn't about them.
Is this about the camping ordinance?
Just the tough right now.
Okay, so you can speak about that later during the public forum, or you can speak about it, later during the public, there is no public hearing, so you need to speak about it right now.
Yeah, it has to be now.
About the tough.
Yes,
Yeah.
so if you want to just hang on right
The
there,
camping ordinance, you can speak during the hearing.
or you're wanting to speak about the tough?
Yeah.
Okay, just hang on there and we'll have you speak next,
You got it.
okay? Anyone else on the camping ordinance for right now? Is that Lane back there? Lane.
Here he goes.
Now you want to speak now?
I want this fall man to come
During
in.
the-
Sure. Get warmed up. Well, thank you for that wonderful email. Appreciate it.
Okay, anyone else who wants to speak right now, not later in public forum? Okay.
What does that leave us with?
We done?
I'm around there. Can see everybody.
Okay. So here's what we have. We have 7 who would like to speak now, times 3 equals 21. Good thing my wife taught school. And then, Daniel, you want to speak on the tough, so that makes 8. So that's what we're going to do. So Daniel, you'll come speak first, and we will be timing each of you for 3 minutes, and then I will announce each one of you, and when you come up to the microphone, just announce your name, and then you may speak. All right, Daniel.
Hi, Daniel Basaraba here. Just want to reiterate my previous position of speaking out against the tough. I think that not all the information is out there, and I don't think it's been really clear what it actually means for our community. I think that ultimately this should go to a vote of the people. I think that everybody here probably resoundingly agrees, and I think that this kind of showing should let you guys know that just making a vote and adding a fee like that without letting the folks that are in this community having a say is not the right thing to do. So that's all. And very nice sign out front. That was the reader board looks great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, our speakers. First, Lori Eichelberger.
Good evening, I'm Lori Eichelberger, and I'm just so happy to see everybody that turned out tonight. I think it's really important for people to come and hear about what's being considered on the homeless ordinance and being able to give input. Kind of all came about because I accidentally showed up on the wrong night 2 weeks ago. I thought it was a council meeting, it was a work session, and the homeless proposed ordinance was on the agenda, and I was like shocked. Because I'm like, oh, how come we haven't heard about this? Oh my gosh. And it directly impacts where I live, because for 10 years I've lived right next to Garden Lake Park. And what was being proposed that night or thrown around was the idea of designating Garden Lake Park for homeless camping specifically. And so that kind of got me up in arms, and we generated the flyers that went out, we generated the Facebook page that went out, just to let people know. And I do apologize if there was a little bit of misinformation. We were doing the best we could to kind of cobble everything together based on all the news stories about all the cities. I looked at Eugene and Bend and Cottage Grove and other ones to see what was going on compared to what was being proposed here. So I'm against designating Garden Lake Park wholeheartedly, and I've already let everybody here know that on more than one occasion. And I'm an avid kayaker, and I take other people out kayaking. It might be their first time, and they look at me and they go, what happens if I capsize? And I just look at them in the eye and I say, don't, just don't. And that's what I want to say to everybody here tonight is just don't designate Garden Lake Park. Don't capsize that park for use by everybody in the community, because this needs to be, whatever you decide, it needs to benefit everybody, not just the homeless. It needs to benefit the community at large. Thank you.
Forgot to mention you're the Homeowners Association president.
Excuse me. We want to continue to move, which means I can't just allow people from the audience to speak whenever you want to speak, so that everyone gets a chance to speak and the council gets to do their business tonight. Okay? Thank you very much. Okay, our next speaker is Patty Muse. Muse. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Patty Buse, and I'm here because I was speaking with Tammy after seeing all this stuff on Facebook. I was surprised because I didn't hear about any of this until Facebook. I am here because I work for the Department of Human Services in Cottage Grove. I work with the homeless every day. I see what that has happened to Cottage Grove. Eugene evidently has kicked camping out of Cottage Grove. So my first question for the council is, has anybody contacted the city of Eugene to find out how did they get rid of camping in Eugene? Because I'm hearing from homeless people daily. I'm from Eugene, we can't camp there anymore. I heard Cottage Grove has a campsite. Where is it? Sign me up for EBT, sign me up for whatever I can get. We've had them come in and say, where's my $1,000? Hasn't passed yet. Anyway, what I want to say is I've worked there for 16 years. In the last year, it's gotten really ugly. I do have pictures if any of you would like to see it. Went to all 3 camps. There was an original camp designated down by the industrial park on Highway 99, kind of out of city limits. That has filled up really extremely quickly. There are now 2 overflow camps, one behind the Dairy Mart on Main Street, one over by the railroad tracks on Douglas, right off of Main Street. What I see is I no longer walk the bike path anymore because they're everywhere. And they're not just law-abiding citizens. They are usually high on drugs. They're usually on alcohol or both. Not all of them, but a majority of them that I see. They're walking around town yelling vulgarities at people. We've had incidences with, and you can check with Cottage Grove Police, where you'll be walking down the street and one of them will just get extremely aggressive with you for no apparent reason. Because we all know that people who are addicts are not reasonable people and you can't reason with them. They're also unpredictable. So my concern is wherever you put them in town, these are things you need to think of. The camps are not usually cleanly, even though they have bathrooms and such there. There's usually a lot of debris, a lot of garbage, a lot of collecting because they feel like they need to collect things because they don't have anything, which I get. But what I'm saying is that these are all things we have to think of. Cottage Grove has a larger police force than we do. I've heard we have 2 during the day and 1 at night. How are they going to monitor that 24/7? My suggestion is, if you're going to locate them somewhere, locate them right next to a police chief. Because when the word gets out, they are going to come. You're not going to have 5, you're going to have 500. And then what do? We're a population of 5,000. Another incident I just read, an email from Lane County Sheriff is just recently in Springfield, back on Thursday, camper decided to camp out on somebody's private property, arming himself with knives. Owner couldn't get him to leave. Police couldn't get him to leave. They finally did capture him after he ran. I don't want that happening on my property. I mean, I get that we have to take care of the problem, but I think the problem's bigger.
Thanks, Patty.
You're welcome.
Our next speaker is Charlotte Gilliam.
Hi, my name is Charlotte Gilmour, and I live not far from Garden Lake Park. I'm here to speak tonight to say that I'm strongly against what you're proposing to do. The park was originally intended and designed to be used by all community members, a place where one can fish, canoe, birdwatch, play horseshoes, play frisbee golf, and dog walk. A place where families can get together for picnics and stroll along the waterways. I personally use that park just about every day. These are vital social activities that engages our community to join together in a safe and clean, open and public area. Again, I can reiterate, safe environment. This park was created to be a sustainable and balanced park system that is accessible and inclusive for our community residents to enjoy. That's on your website. I got those specific words, that's what it exactly says. Free of crime, free of drugs, and free of garbage. A safe and protected place. If you open this particular park, hundreds will come and possibly thousands. It won't stop there. As it is located right off I-5, it is easy access on and easy access off. Questions that must be looked at before making a decision such as this. Who will monitor how long each person stays? How will those records be kept? Who is paying for this monitoring? What happens if they refuse to leave? Who is going to physically pack them up and move them if it's time to move? Do you seriously believe they will not defecate or urinate all over the park and poison the public grounds? What about drug use and crime use and the families that will have to face this in their back door? And who is going to maintain their garbage? There are a lot more questions asked than answered when you're making this choice. Please choose not to place it at Garden Lake Park.
Thank you, Charlotte. Our next speaker is Michael Morris.
This is harder than it looks, just saying. My name's Michael. Thank you, City Council, for allowing this opportunity to speak. I've been a 50-year Lane County resident. We all saw what happened under the Jefferson Street Bridge. One factor in it exploding in its numbers was that it was roofed. It was a comfortable place to camp, and it attracted homeless from all over. Garden Lake Park is beautiful, lakefront property, and it will attract homeless from all over. If you remove from the equation, then no one wants it in their backyard. If you take that out and just look at what other things should be considered, the future, this is what I'm talking about, the cost of cleanup of the trails at the park are inherently difficult to get to by car or anything. It's all all the garbage will have to be packed out by hand. The piles and tons of garbage that we all know are going to show up. The sheer size of the park will accommodate many hundreds of homeless tents, attracted and drawn there by its lakefront comfort and beauty. The curb appeal to travelers that Creswell has developed will be replaced by a long line of torn apart campers and cars bordering the freeway. Picture that. Portland comes to mind, actually. The watershed and lakes will be filled with drug paraphernalia and garbage that the Environmental Protection Agency will have to address at some point. Here's $1,000. And if we can get 50 or 100 other community members with means to pool together and buy and donate a piece of land that's the perfect location for this homeless park, the city has within its powers to deem it a park, and all the problems with the Garden Lake location would be gone. The water contamination, the inaccessibility to clean it up, and the view from the freeway. 10,000 cars a day go by there. Our welcome mat will be broken down campers and piles of garbage. The bike shop east of Dairy Queen offers a suitable interim solution to Garden Lake, allowing smaller capacity, ease of cleanup, and lessened visual public impact. That's it.
Tim Shuck.
Thank you, Council. My name is Jim Shuck. I live on Crestwood Drive. My wife Tammy Sue is a counselor, and we've lived here for 9 years. Our daughter Savannah walks her puppy at Garden Lake Park. She's 17 and just became a licensed driver. If the park is allowed to designate it as an allowed overnight camping spot, my fear is I will have to be there with her on her walks in the park so I can protect her from the unhoused, many of which, who, if not all, who are drug addicts. I work 5 days a week and volunteer at my church on weekends, and Tammy works 6 days a week. We just don't have the time to follow our kids around and make sure that they're safe. I fully support our sheriff's deputies, but there's only so much they can do to keep control of an out-of-control, drug-addicted population. Let me preface that. I manage the Platt Electric Supply in Eugene on West 4th, and I've seen firsthand the destruction done at Washington Jefferson Park. It was, not to mention my own greenscape next to my building that we had to tear out and replace with more durable materials as a direct result of unhoused occupancy. I've also had a front row seat, literally out my windows of my office, watching the behavior and interactions among themselves and with the community. And I can assure you most, and I'm not trying to scare people, but I can assure you most, if not all, have some kind of weapon on them. Now, they're not all dangerous, but the thing is, you don't know until you're in over your head who is and who isn't. There's some people that just have mental illness, and then there are those that are doggone dangerous, and it's a scary situation. In addition to worry about my daughter's safety, our daughter's safety, I'm concerned about the waterways being contaminated, the biohazard waste being left on the grounds that I've seen in Eugene that would endanger animals, park users, and public works cleanup crews. There has to be another solution. There has to be. We know that we need a solution. But my wife and I have talked to several members of the community over the last couple of weeks since the last work session, and not a single person has supported this garden park solution. So I'm asking, please, let's find something else. There's got to be something that we can do besides that solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Our next speaker is Richard Proud.
It's hot in here, and we haven't even started major confrontation. My name is Richard Prout. I've lived in Creswell for 10 years. And I'm going to discuss the potential homeless crisis that we're facing perhaps in the next couple of months or next couple of years. This will be 3 minutes. America has always had a homeless population. From the displaced native Indians in 1840 to the sturdy beggars and vagrants of the 20th century. In 1870, 5 years after the Civil War, the homeless were defined as a crisis of men let loose from all the habits of domestic life, wandering without aim, direction, or home. The statement holds true today and will continue to be a challenge in the future. Homeless encampments have never made a contribution to any community. They have only divided humanity into two groups. One group is industrious, hardworking society. The other group consists of individuals who either cannot or will not contribute to the basic norms of a society. The homeless crisis is a nationwide problem, with Oregon having the 6th largest unhoused population in America. That's about 16,000 to maybe I've seen as high as 20,000. No city is prepared for significant costs associated with homelessness. It's not just the dollars, but the degradation of standards to make a neighborhood safe, clean, and united in their desire to make a better society. As a very small city, we should not be expected under House Bill 3115 to accept the responsibility for disruptive behavior, filth, and public health crimes that are created by the homeless. Large and very wealthy cities such as Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles are being overrun by tent cities. Los Angeles alone spends $40 million a year just to clean up trash from the homeless encampments. In addition, we have this bill being proposed by two young ladies in the Senate, 3501, which is the Right to Arrest Act, which allows individuals to sue you and I or the city for $1,000 if they are harassed or told to relocate. Once homeless encroachment begins, it has only to expand in its numbers. Allowing beggars, criminals, drifters, scammers, squatters, thieves, and the mentally ill to create tent cities, including drug dealers, sex traffickers, and other undesirables, does not enhance the livability of any city. In other words, these are harsh words, the homeless population is not a desirable population. They are not needed and wanted in the community, such as Creswell. The homeless challenge is very complex. Volumes have been written, numerous court and legislative decisions have been rendered, and significant private funds have...
Can you wrap up, Richard? That was 3 minutes.
Okay, here's... It wasn't already? Right.
How about one more sentence? Sum it all up.
All right. We've got 6 things that communities can do. So you can... And some of these are important.
Give us one of them.
All right.
We have more people to speak.
All right. When I lived in Hawaii, what they did is they gave people tickets to fly out of the state, and they never saw them again.
Thank you, Richard. Our next speaker is Lane Workman.
Good evening, Lane Workman. I've lived in Creswell for 5 years. I'm the general manager at Emerald Valley Golf and Resort. We have seen Cinderella Park, which borders the backside of our property, and the Reserve, which is another housing division over there. When the camping community, I guess is what we're calling it to be politically correct, when the camping community comes into Cinderella Park, we see exponential problems with just mischievous stuff. Flags get ripped out of the holes on the golf course. Regularly, people, we assume they're camping somewhere near because they'll walk through and dig through our garbage, take our cans. We've seen thousands and thousands of dollars of damage, stealing, items missing, golf carts getting stolen, and we somehow seem to find them in these camping communities when we go looking for them. So occasionally those guys get a free ride around town in one of our golf carts. I want to thank the Sheriff's Department, Lane County Sheriff's Department. Unfortunately, I know a lot of these guys by their first name because I see them a lot. They've been very supportive and very helpful in our fight to protect our property. And I don't have to tell anybody about the issues with the homeless communities. Speaker after speaker tonight will tell you what goes wrong in those communities. I'm not a politician. Maybe the novel idea is instead of figuring out a way to do something with them in our community, but we figure out a way to keep them out of our community.
All right, thank you very much. So we move on in our agenda to item number 2, which is the mayor's report. And the first item is budget committee appointment. So I'd love to have you all come back tomorrow night at 6:30. The city council reconvenes. Did I have a speaker for him?
Damn, getting there.
So you may speak. You be our last speaker. You may speak now, or you may speak later during the. There will be a public hearing on the same subject.
I'd like to speak now if I can.
Okay.
I thought I had cleared to do that.
I didn't have your form is all. So if you want to give that to Grace, I'll get it from Grace.
Yes.
Oh.
You must have it in your...
I must have it. Let's see. Dan, what's your last name, Dan?
Getting dapper.
Oh, in the stack here. Okay, excuse me, Dan. I didn't get yours pulled out of the list. So, Dan Diffendorfer.
So you heard it. My name is Dan Diffendorfer. I feel like I ought to just say ditto and get going on because there's so much of what I wanted to say has been addressed by the people that came before us. First of all, we recognize that the issue of homelessness is a growing problem across America. We also recognize that municipalities are being asked to find ways to deal with the problem, including providing shelter, open spaces for people to camp. However, we believe that the current proposal presented by the Creswell City Council to designate Garden Lake Park as a homeless camping site is seriously flawed. House Bill 3115 doesn't require designated spaces for homeless camping as far as I can tell. Rather, it says that homeless camping is required in public spaces within city limits. I'm going to quote a couple of phrases out of the bill. The bill says it retains the city's ability to enact reasonable time, place, and manner regulations aiming to preserve the ability of the cities to manage public spaces effectively for the benefit of an entire community. Curiously, the bill says there's no financial impact in the bill. That may be true for the state, but it's certainly not true for the cities. I believe this qualifies as an unfunded mandate, but that's another topic that should be addressed somewhere else. Cities throughout the state are dealing with homeless camps where associated problems of crime, drug use, issues of trash and pollution on public property are common. We have to wonder how the city would be able to provide funding for keeping our parks clean and safe for all people, who pay for the parks, the taxpayers. Additionally, our community, for budgetary and other reasons, is seriously underserved by law enforcement. How does the city propose to protect its residents from property crimes that typically follow such activity? Public parks are a vital part of a vibrant community and should be preserved for the enjoyment of all citizens. Garden Lake Park is enjoyed by a lot of people for a variety of activities: hiking, camping, fishing, and a number of other recreational activities. Only have to look as far as Eugene to see what happened under the Washington Jefferson Street Bridge, which became an absolute disaster because the city couldn't manage it. And they finally had to fence it off and move the people out of the park. They went to Cottage Grove. If you look to see what happened there, you can see what the potential is in Creswell. To designate Garden Lake Park or any other park within the city limits as homeless camping sites will have the effect of driving out the very people who derive the most benefit from those parks. This amounts to a condemnation of public property for the benefit of a few, to the detriment of many.
Come on, can we wrap it up?
I urge the city council to abandon this proposal as homeless camping site and not consider any other park as such. Find a smaller space that can be managed by the resources, human and financial, to manage the problem.
Thank you all for speaking, and again, there will be opportunity later when we have a public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, what is the public hearing? Is that going to be where
The
we
public
see
hearing is
talking about
specifically,
it?
yeah, the public hearing is prior to this ordinance, and so you may speak during the public hearing specifically on this ordinance. So you really had two opportunities, one right now and one later.
When is later? Tonight?
Tonight.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Tonight. As soon as we get through the business we've got to cover right now, which is, 20 minutes maybe, 15. We'll move quickly.
I have a question.
So I'm not going to handle any questions now. No, we're going to move
How are you
on.
going to vote?
We are going to move on with our.
People going to vote?
We are going to move on with our agenda, sir.
Okay.
So we come to the mayor's report, which tomorrow night we have budget committee opens for the city. It's a two-step process, and the city budget committee is comprised of the 7 councilors plus 7 community members. We have one vacancy on that, and so we are here tonight to appoint a new member to the budget committee. We have an appointment. We have a candidate who filled out an application, Mr. Cameron Burke. I don't know if Cameron's here tonight. Cameron is the owner of the Dairy Queen. And so, council, with your consent, I would like to appoint Cameron Burke to fill the vacant seat on the city budget committee. Council, do I have your approval for that appointment?
Mayor?
Yes.
Mr. Burke attended our training last week with Director Piper. I can't see out here. Oh, he's in the auxiliary room. Anyway, I just wanted you to know that he is very prepared to put the hours in that are needed for the budget committee.
Good, thank you. Okay, well then with council approval, I have appointed Cameron Burke to fill the seat on the city budget committee. Next on the mayor's agenda, you received tonight from me a city council charge. So the city of Creswell has several standing committees, and what we mean by standing committees is they stand around and do nothing unless there's something they need to do. And then we quickly give them a charge. So what has come up recently is that the Lane Act, that's the Area Commission on Transportation, and we have Representative Councilor Clark who serves on that, has asked that cities prioritize transportation needs. And as you know, there are transportation needs in Creswell. So this is a charge, I will read it. It says, working with staff, create a list of the top 5 transportation priorities for the city of Creswell. This list will be presented at a future Lane Act meeting for consideration of state and or federal funding. The timeline is to present the list of priorities to the city council at the July work session. The appointees to this committee, Chair Shelley Clark, Councilors Tammy Shuck and Stacy Holt. Staff support is provided by the City Manager and the Director of Public Works. So Council, with your consent, I would like to make that charge tonight for the Transportation and Public Works Committee. Do I have your consent? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the correspondence. So we have a number of items. Councilors, is there any comments on any of the correspondence that we received? Councilor Clark.
Sure, I just wanted to point out that my email address is not sclark@thecresswell. Whatever the end of that is, it's actually S.A. And so if anyone has reached out to me or reached out through the S. Clark preface, that actually goes to somebody else. And so if you haven't heard back from me, that could be why.
So I'll make one comment. We had a letter here about dogs at large, which actually will come up a little bit later in our code enforcement report. So because we've had a number of questions recently about some of the codes in Creswell, we are going to put that on the June work session for the council to, our code enforcement officer, Chelsea, will be present, and we will review about 4 or 5 different codes that we have, just partly for our information and partly if the council wishes to take any further steps with our city codes. Any other comments on correspondence? Okay, then we move on to the consent calendar. In the consent calendar, all items are considered routine, the approval of the minutes, and are enacted by a single motion of the council unless a councilor wishes to pull an item from any of the minutes for correction purposes. Is there anything, council members, you need to pull for correction purposes? If not, then I'm entertaining a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented. Councilor Castillo?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Your second on the floor? Councilor Osborne seconds the motion. Any further discussion? Council will proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We move on to item number 5, the administrative report, and I turn it over to Manager Amberg.
Thank you, Mayor. The first report tonight is the financial report, and I'll do my best to answer any questions you may have.
Councilor Holt?
I'm curious, what is the analytical laboratory group?
That is the group that we use in Public Works to analyze our water on a regular basis.
Okay, thanks.
Councilor Osborne?
I'm curious about the wagon wheel feed and grain. I've noticed several different bills to them.
Right. Public Works buys the crossbow from them and other weed abatement type of chemicals.
Let's see.
Okay, the next is the Lane County Sheriff's Calls for Service Report, and I see our sergeant is here. Sergeant Speldrich is here to answer any questions you might have on the report.
Good evening, Sergeant Speldrich. So do you have a new deputy with you here tonight?
I did.
Would you like to introduce him to us?
He actually snuck out. It was pretty crowded in here. So.
Okay.
For those that don't know me, I'm Sergeant Alex Speldrich. I started down here in February, and I run all the Creswell deputies down here, run the shop down here. And we had a new deputy reassigned down here to Creswell last month, so you'll see some new faces around. So that's Deputy LaFoca that's down here. So this last month, the calls for service are really par for the course for Creswell. We're running into the same general stuff that's going on in pretty much every city around, the nation. It looks like our public order calls for service were up slightly from last month, and that would be like disorderly people, animal calls, suspicious vehicles, that type of stuff. Other than that, there's really nothing out of the ordinary, and everything's tracking the same as it did last year.
So you might want to explain, it might be interesting for our community members, the difference between a call and a case number.
Yes, so a call would be anytime you call into the sheriff's office and we respond to it, whether we respond to it or not, it generates a call for service. A case number is something that we've had to take some sort of enforcement action, whether that means somebody going to jail, being issued a citation in lieu of going to jail, that type of stuff generates a case number.
So as a for instance, Sergeant Feldrich, you mentioned that the public order calls were up to 38, but I noticed the actual cases turned into 2.
That is correct. There's only 2 case numbers pulled for those public order crimes.
Hey, Counselor, do you have questions for Sergeant Speldridge? Counselor Shuck.
I just wanted to say thank you for adding the speed citations to your monthly report. That's much appreciated. And again, thank you for another Coffee with a Cop this past Saturday. I appreciate that and everyone that came out for that.
You're welcome.
Councilor Castilla.
Yes, Sergeant Speldrick, just out of curiosity, for this month, were any of the calls related to our homeless community?
To my knowledge, no. Looking through the calls for service when I generated this report, none of them stood out as being directly homeless related. I didn't read every single report that was generated. However, none of them appear to be related to any of the people that are camping in our community.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Councilor Osborne.
I hate to be the one that brings this up this time, but has there been a change in our homeless population in the last month?
Not to my knowledge, no, and it appears to be the same handful of people we've talked about camping in cars, and then just a small group, 2 to 3, that are camping in tents throughout our area.
Councilor Shuck.
So we're still sitting at 5 to 6 that we discussed at the last Public Safety Committee meeting, about 5 or 6.
5 to 6 that are in vehicles, and then an additional 2 to 3 that are camping in tents.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant Speldridge.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next item is the city attorney's report. You can see how we've used our city attorney in this last month. The next report is the code enforcement report, and I'd be happy to try and answer any questions you might have about code enforcement. There's being no questions. The last is the building permit recap report. You can see how we're trending as far as new buildings within the city of Creswell. That concludes the administrative reports for this month.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now we move on to the back side, which is council action items. And the first item is ordinance number 557. Ordinance 557 is an ordinance updating the Creswell Municipal Code relating to camping and parking. And the first item on the ordinance is a public hearing. So I have here names of those of you that submitted a form. If you want to speak during the public hearing, please bring a form forward to Grace, and then I'll get that and you may speak. Okay, so I'm just going to call these in order. Our first speaker is Natalie Marshall.
Good evening. My name is Natalie Marshall. I live on Tossa Creek which is over by Garden Lake Park. Let me start by saying how much I appreciate the commitment that you all have to our city, and I acknowledge the difficult position you're in. I recognize that the governor and the state of Oregon has put every city across our state in an impossible position. I'm here to present my opposition to having Garden Lake Park designated as a homeless camp. This is a park that's used by Creswell residents of all ages. We walk the trails, we play disc golf, our kids fish the ponds, our teens have their senior pictures taken there. Making it a homeless camp will render it unsafe and unusable for the very people who pay for this. The park is home to wildlife, rabbits, ducks, geese, migrating birds, to name a few. How can we call it a conservatory or a wildlife habitat and at the same time designate it a homeless encampment? If we build it, if we allow it, they will come. They will destroy Garden Lake Park with garbage, drug paraphernalia, or worse. All of which will find its way into the water and soil. I've heard some people talking about there being wells near this park. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's something that I, as a member of this community, am interested to know. Is there a water source there that our drinking water comes from? Is it a possibility that that will happen and that that water could be destroyed? In the question and answer post that the city stated on Facebook, they said, Public Works and Creswell deputies will patrol the park and will address illegal acts. How is it safe or practical to ask our deputies and our city staff to go into brushy wooded areas and police it and clean it up? I wouldn't want to be either of those people. It's my recommendation that this council, and especially the city attorney, look into collaborating with other cities who are not in a position to designate a city property for a homeless camp. We should be joining forces with other cities across the state to come up with creative solutions, and if need be, push back as a group.
Yes.
If we must have someplace designated, which I don't think is a great idea, but if we must, then I suggest the parking lot across from City Hall and the fire station where it can be policed, because that area can be contained and it can be easily monitored, patrolled. There is a bus station there and there are people camping there currently. We could require that campers register, spaces could be numbered, and campers could be designated a spot and a time limit. Why not run a campsite similar to how an actual campground runs? I ask you, please consider tabling this vote, and let's look into other solutions. Thank you for your time and your service to Creswell.
Our next speaker is Bill Kent.
Mayor, councilors, and you're all still here. I did some looking into this too, and it's not the governor, it's not the politicians, it's the Ninth Circuit, which is a court that is kind of directing this to all cities in Oregon. So the idea that you're going to move to a different city and get away from it does not exist. But what I did was I looked at the cities that have done the best, and they interacted with the homeless. So what I did was I went out and interacted with the homeless and started interviewing them about what would you like to see. And so I brought you a recording from one of our homeless who happens to live in the park across here. And so if I had to pick a park, the parking lot. It's called a park. I know it's a parking lot too, but technically it's a park. I would also pick the park And interestingly enough, if you took a vote of our homeless, they'd pick that park.
Try this.
Hi, my name is Tanya, and I've been in Creswell since September 2022, and I'm here talking with Mr. Kent, and I'm trying to get off the street from being homeless, and I can't seem to find a way to do that financially. It's too expensive. I do appreciate some of the things you've done for us already. Bigger porta potty, maybe getting a dumpster in so we can throw garbage away.
Keep going. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you end up homeless?
I have worked as a caregiver for 30 years in my day, and I've raised my kids. And when my girls started getting older, they started running away with boys, and my income slowly depreciated, and I could not afford the house that I lived in anymore. And my husband and me split up, so my income was so low that I couldn't afford to rent no more, and I ended up in my truck living homeless. And I've tried many times to get out of this situation, which financially I can't seem to do it. And I've been in my truck now for 4 years with my little dog living.
Can you tell us what it's a little bit what it's like living in a truck? I mean, first of all, it's cold and wet in Oregon.
Well, it can get pretty depressing, I guess, and very uncomfortable because I'm disabled, and to have to sleep in a seat 24 hours a day and live in it is just unbelievable that I'm in this situation right now.
What worries you on a day-to-day basis? I mean,
I'm losing my vehicle for some reason, or my dog. Am I ever going to get out of this situation so I can enjoy my grandkids? I have children around here and grandchildren that if I was in a home, I could have them coming over and visiting with me. That's why I came to Oregon, was to be with my children and my grandchildren. And my children are not in any better situation to be taking me in a home because they're barely making it themselves, to my surprise. And the ones that could help me seem to be a little bit on the greedy side.
yeah, you know, a day gets really long. Even if you're cooped up in a house, but how do you pass the time in a day when you can't go anywhere, if you can't lock your truck because you can't count on everything being there?
It's very difficult. There's no space to make my crafts. I love to make all kinds of things, and it just seems to be impossible. You start getting so depressed that you don't know what to do anymore. You get so depressed that it's sleep. I find myself sleeping a lot because of depression, not knowing which way to turn. I've called Cottage Grove, I've been to Eugene, I've signed up for housing, I've got listing of things that may be for rent, and my son was helping me get around, but then he just completely stopped. He was going to help me when he got his income tax to get something to live in, a little trailer or something, and when that time came, he just backed out on it and didn't talk to me anymore. And that's been very depressing and upsetting for me.
Well, I know in talking to you that living in a vehicle is much preferable to living in a tent or a sleeping bag or something like that on the side of the street. Well,
yes.
What do you view as up? I mean, if you were going to move up from a vehicle, what's the next ladder up to you?
If I could afford to get a camp trailer or RV, that would be a lot better than living in this truck day in and day out. Some days I can barely roll out and walk. I'm so stiff from sitting in here 24 hours a day. You know, this seat is my bed, it's my kitchen, it's my living room, it's everything, and that's as far as I can get. Sometimes you just wish for death.
That's kind of depressing. I know I've seen you over at the food pantry, and if you were going to make any changes to what the food pantry hands out or does, what would you recommend?
I would ask for a box for homeless because some of us can't cook. You know, I've got a little situation where I can cook, But a homeless box like they make up in California, they ask you if you want a box for the homeless or can you cook. They have two different kind of food boxes fixed up, and sometimes it's better for us to have a homeless box with food that doesn't have to be prepared.
Yeah, I can see that, with lack of refrigerated storage, lack of preparation, which brings us all the way back to if the city could acquire a dumpster here in the park that you guys can utilize. It seems to me, first of all, it saved the city on trying to clean up stuff that was left, around town, because the trash can over here, there's no way you could accommodate.
There's no time.
Yes, and we do go through a lot of garbage because we buy stuff like from the
Not a
dollar
time
store
limit here.
and there's a lot of packages that.
William, can you wrap it up?
Yeah, I did. I can see that, I just wanted to humanize some of, these aren't murderers, rapists, and the hordes coming into town. These are some of
Let's all be
your,
respectful of whoever's speaking, please.
these are some of your neighbors.
There are that too.
There are, and a lot of them.
There's always some,
and-
but we're
yes.
considering the whole group.
I know, and a lot of them live in houses. So how are we gonna root out the murderers and rapists?
Excuse me. This is an opportunity for one person to speak. We're going to respect that one person and allow them to speak, please, and not engage from the public.
I know
Will you
there's.
go ahead and continue?
Okay. I know there's lots of questions and arguments back and forth. There's a lot of fear. What I would really recommend is that the mayor has the ability to appoint a committee to study something. This problem is not going away. It's going to only increase, and I think it deserves at least an ongoing visibility of the committee, going out and talking to them, talking to the sheriff, finding out solutions rather than fears, and we work to do the best we can. So that's my recommendation. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, William. Our next speaker is Wes Doffenbaugh.
I'll pass.
Okay,
Not the people who say that.
all right, Wes. Next speaker is Mel Cooper.
My name is Mel Cooper, longtime resident of Oregon, but only a few weeks here in Creswell. My wife and I are building a house in just on the far side of the park. Hopefully we'll get a roof here in a few days. It's been raining. And kind of feel like I'm homeless myself right at the moment until we get that house, but we're moving in the right direction. In looking at what's going on this last week, and I've only been aware of this homeless problem for about the last week, as far as it applies to Creswell. It seems to me like there hasn't been that big of a problem right here in Creswell. And it seems to me also that if we were to designate a park and have that be something that would be advertised throughout the nation on national media, everybody would come. There's no sense, creating a problem when we don't have a problem. So I think if we take a low profile, continue to what we're doing. I understand that there's an issue that we have to lift the ban on public properties, but lift the ban but don't advertise it. It would be much better to do that and just continue on the way we've been going and look for solutions to the problems that we do have here in Creswell. A couple dozen people out here that are homeless. Surely we can, as a community, figure out how to house those people or put them in some type of a program to help them improve their situation. But I think going out and just saying we're going to make this park a designated spot for the homeless, I think that would make national news. And all of a sudden we've got the 60,000 homeless out of LA right here in Creswell. What are we going to do with them then?
Yep.
Okay, so my thinking too here is that Creswell being a small city compared to the other cities and stuff around, And with a limited number of acreage of parks we have, I took a look on the website, there's like 40 acres of park, public park in Creswell. 33 of it's at Garden Lake. Over half of that's water. Some of it is an area that's blocked off from public use on the northeast corner. So we're really talking about just a little area here next to the freeway where you may have 6 or 7 acres of property. Why would the state expect us to give up that 6 or 7 acres of property for the homeless? And further, the other smaller properties, there's 1 and 2 acre parcels. Basically, they're parks for families, children, playgrounds. It's ridiculous to think that those would be a place that we would let the homeless lay. So why aren't we pushing back against this regulation the state's been putting on us? You know, it's there's a wide variety of homeless out there, we understand, you know, from what we just heard, this gentleman just before me. There are some people out there that need our help, but there's a lot of people out there that choose to be there. And I think that we need to be pushing back against what's being pushed at us. And let the state know that in a community our size, we're not going to put up huge, elaborate facilities to take care of, you know, a few people. I think it's possible we should be talking like some of their speakers have said, that we need to be talking to these other cities and try to figure out collectively how to get something done.
Our next speaker is Sam Stotts.
My name is Sam Stotts. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you guys today. And also, Mayor, thank you for being honest in the sense, instead of just limiting all of us just 3 minutes, to actually give us the opportunity to tell us that we can have this extra time. I work in this every day. I'm a sergeant for Eugene Police Department, and I work 40 hours a week, and every day I obviously engage and work with the homeless population. Keep an eye on Eichelberger, don't let him sneak up and tase me in the back. We've been trying to get him to lateral over to us for a while, and he won't go. And here's exactly, and you can talk to him later off the books. I guarantee you this will be one of the reasons why. So there are numerous things that a lot of people were bringing up, and I started taking down a few notes to kind of speak on every one of those, and they're very right. First and foremost, what the bill points out is we are not required by this bill, this House Bill 3115, to designate a park or an area. You don't need to. The right to rest bill, that would have been way more intrusive or invasive and actually gone after citizens and fined them, died. That bill's dead. And there's a reason for it, even in the state of Oregon. So don't do the work for it. Why are you going to do the work for a bill that was killed? In 3115, what I've been seeing from other cities, what they're afraid of is being sued. The only thing in there that it talks about is that a city or an entity that does enforce whatever codes or ordinances they currently have on the books for trespassing or whatever they have, that the person has the right to sue them. Well, they can only sue for reasonable legal fees. And I will guarantee you this, and I can get you data to prove it, our city attorney versus what we pay for our city attorney to fighting type of fees is way less than what the city has paid to, one, enforce this problem, and later clean up this problem. And not only just from cleanup. I can tell you on a daily basis, I respond to these, everybody knows them, there's damage to public property, there's damage to private property. We routinely, every day, Narcan one person a night at least. And we go, our Narcans are $50 a pop, the city's paying for them. And sometimes we're Narcanning people 2 or 3 times to bring them back. We lose some of them we don't. I can guarantee you that your resources, you have 2 deputies during the day, 1 at night. Your deputy at night is not going to go into that park and walk along those trails where you can be ambushed, officer safety issues, and they're there. We had not a homeless kid, we had a college kid from U of O. He went to 7-Eleven on 13th Street a few months back. You guys can look it up, it's a pretty big case. I was working that night, and a homeless guy was inside. stealing items from the store, and that's what's gonna happen to your local stores around here. They're gonna go in, they steal every day because there's no consequences for not stealing. For the rest of us, we all don't want a citation. Who wants to pay $325 because you got caught shoplifting? Nobody. That's why you don't steal. You don't want it on your credit report if you don't pay the fine. You don't want it on your criminal record. You don't want it, a misdemeanor on your criminal record. It will prevent you from buying something or affect your score or background check. They don't care about any of that. There's no consequences for that. They don't have driver's license, they don't drive, or they drive while suspended. There's no consequences. The jail, and you can talk to Speldrich, can't hold people. It's that capacity. We routinely bring people in every night and they're released. And to prove a point, one of our officers, Officer Warden, you can look it up, arrested the same guy 5 times in one day. We brought him to jail in a 10-hour shift. We brought him to jail, he was released, arrested again. Brought to jail, trespassing, disorderly conduct, released, arrested again. And we did it to prove a point. It's a broken system right now. And it's not Lane County's fault. It's just a collective system. It's a bicycle wheel missing most of the spokes. It's barely operating. I moved here with my wife 13 years ago because it was a small town. We love it. I started working for the City of Eugene Police Department 13 years ago. And that is not the same city it was 13 years ago. And I will tell you here and now, if they continue the same path, we will lose the city in 5 years. It is beyond, people have no idea. It is a different city after midnight. I work from 9:30 at night to 7:30 in the morning. A completely different city after midnight. Going back to the story I was getting to, college kid was inside the store, thought he was going to be a good guy and stop the theft. The guy got out, the homeless man got outside. He's fixated with knives, he sharpens them, it's just what he does. Razor sharp, the college kid tried to stop him, pulled out a knife, cut him from ear to his cheek, cut him on the side of his head. Not to be gross, but it is what it is. His tongue was sticking out the side of his cheek. We barely saved his life. 2 of our officers and 1 of our other sergeants. We have special medical equipment that we carry. There were 15 of us on that call. You're not gonna have 15 cops on that call. I found the guy 3 blocks later, we took him into custody. And our officers were able to save the life of the college kid on the street. He later died at the hospital. He was revived by the doctors. They told us the only reason he survived is he had just barely enough blood in his system to survive. He would have died. Now he's gonna be forever scarred and marred. This kid who was going to U of O, thought he was gonna be a good Samaritan for the rest of his life because he engaged this homeless guy with these fixation problems. You're gonna have that in Creswell. Somebody's going to step up or somebody's going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and deal with a mentally ill person who's fixated with knives. We arrested one the other day, yesterday, with a chisel. She had a chisel, just a normal chisel, and she was threatening people in Tawar Inn. Threatened the manager, told him she was going to kill him. And now we had 12 units screaming across town to get there. You don't have 12 units to get there. And you're going to have a massive impact on your community. That people don't know, they're not aware of. You want to come on a ride along, I can take 4 at a time. You're welcome anytime from 9:30 at night to 6:30 in the morning. I'll give you a firsthand look at what we deal with. WJ Park, as everybody knows, was a failure twice. That park was utilized twice for homeless. I don't know if most people know that, but several years ago it was used. A big massive tent was put in. They put in smaller tents, they had heaters, they thought it was a great thing. It failed. Feces, urine, drugs, deaths, attacks, homicides, homeless people murdering other homeless people happened in that park. That was shut down, it was taken away, the city let it happen again. They're estimating over $1 million to renovate and clean up WJ Park. Does the city of Creswell have that money? They're paying over $30,000 a month for services for toilet, for water, for trash, and other services that they began to offer. Not only the numerous times that police and fire had to respond for assaults, a lady was murdered, she was burned alive in her tent, she got in an argument with another homeless person, they threw gas on her tent, lit it on fire, she died in her tent. That's what you're gonna have in your park. And you might think that won't happen, but it will. The gentleman that came up that, I forgot your name, that had the video or the audio recording of the lady in your park, she will be a victim. 100% guarantee it. Seems like a nice lady. She's been in your park since September of 22, and you haven't had problems with her. Obviously didn't have any last month because you didn't respond. She's too nice. She'll be a victim. They will break into her truck. They will steal what she has because she's a nice lady. And if she's not causing problems, and if she's not strong enough to stand for herself, she will be a victim. You think you're helping but you actually just endanger her, you'll run her out of this town that she has found to be home, and where she feels safe, and evidently is safe, and seems to be in the park not causing a problem, you will run her out of town. She'll have to leave this town for her safety, or she will be a victim to crime. That's what they do. They rob and attack and assault each other. And they don't report it, because it's street justice. They just go after each other, and then we respond when it boils over to the public. They'll actually call 911. Your city resources will be taxed. How much money are you putting into police and fire every year? Plan to triple it. You're going to need more fire. What's going to happen when your medic units are in that park constantly because they are 911 Narcaning people that are overdosing on fentanyl? Where's your medic unit going to go when another citizen actually needs assistance or needs help? You're not going to have it because your medic unit's going to be out there. They're going to have to transport to the hospital, which we don't have in Creswell, so they're going to go to UDH or Riverbend. Drive time there, when the ambulance comes out, has to be cleaned. It's going to be down until that ambulance is cleaned. All that is fees and things Creswell's going to have to pay for, and time that medic unit is now not in your town. So then when you need an ambulance, it's going to have to come from somewhere else. Again, response time that people don't think of, that happens to us all the time in Eugene. We have to wait extra long because the medic unit would be for our part of town. That station, he's out on a Narcan call, and now a medic unit has to come from another station. We're lucky. We've got multiple stations. Does Creswell have multiple medic units and stations? You're going to have a problem. Attacks, murders, assaults, your animals that you love will be gone. In the park, they ate them. On the river, they eat them. They catch the ducks, they catch the wildlife, everything's there, they kill them, and they cook them, and they eat them. And the city will be cleaning up the carcasses, because as you can imagine, they don't clean up themselves when they're done. So plan for paying extra park people to go in and do cleanup, which they won't feel safe to do by all right. So now they're going to have escort. So you're going to have to pay more for police services because the county's not going to give you more bodies, or you're just going to have to go without other patrol because your county deputies are going to have to go down there and ask them. Right now, I think Creswell is a good place that they like to come and be a deputy. It's a good town to be a deputy in. What's going to happen when this is brought in? Ask them. There's a reason why they don't want to work for the city of Eugene. We have politics, we have camping, we have an auditor. Am I wrong? This is going to be a problem where you're not going to want deputies. They're not going to want to come to Creswell. They will decide to go to Veneta. They will decide to go to other towns. And you won't get the good deputies, not that there's a bad one, but you won't get the ones that want to be in Creswell because they will go to other cities because they won't want to deal with the problem that Creswell is going to create. And yes, you will lose all the acreage in your camp or in your park. All of it will be gone. They will stretch out, they will move out, and they will completely take over the park. Eugene has a huge problem right now where our businesses are leaving town. Can Creswell afford to have your businesses leave town? You have two massive businesses that are right there by that park. You have, or three. You have a trailer sales place. What do you think is going to happen in the middle of the night with a bunch of homeless people nearby and they see luxury RVs over there? I can tell you what's going to happen because we deal with it all the time. I get calls all the time, middle of the night, alarms going off. They're breaking into the RV units on Highway 99. They're breaking into them. They're sleeping in them. They're having to turn them in as an insurance claim because now there's drugs in them. There's feces. There's urine in them. They can't sell them. It's not going to be long before that business is going to say, I'm done with Creswell. It's what they're doing to Eugene. Downtown Eugene is failing, and those businesses are leaving. I went to 2 weeks ago, and one of your members' sons, Tyler Pratt, was riding along with me with another member of the Velarde family, and we went to a call, and 6 or 7 RVs burned up on Highway 99. Homeless people got inside, were doing drugs inside, and lit one on fire. Whether it was accidental or intentional, we have no idea, but all the adjacent ones next to it burned up before fire could get there. So you have a business that's going to lose inventory. They're going to have to move out. They're not going to be afford to be here, and they'll be gone. Right next to them, you have a place that has a bunch of implements, tools, and all sorts of things. What do you think is going to start happening to their property? It's going to be stolen. It's going to be.
Sam, I'm going to ask that you wrap it up because we still have about 8 or 10 more people that speak, and we'll be here really late. So, and I want to give everybody an opportunity to speak who would like to speak.
I understand that. You also have an airport that they're going to have their planes broken into, hangars broken into, and they have other things that are stored besides planes. Those things are just out and tied onto the tarmac. These are major businesses and things that bring in money to this city. You're going to lose. And a great example is look at the difference of Springfield. Who would rather go to downtown Eugene right now or downtown Springfield? Springfield took enforcement action. They actually spent the money to build a jail, smartest thing they ever did. And they have chased that problem out of town because there's consequences for their actions. If somebody is committing a crime, disorderly conduct, trespass, whatever it is, they go to jail, they stay in jail the entire time, or they pay the entire fine. You can go to downtown Springfield and not find a homeless problem, and they are following this bill. You don't have to designate an area. Leave the status quo of what you have. Don't announce anything. You're allowing people to stay in the park. Great, let them stay in the park across the street. They're not causing a problem. These aren't your issues. The people that you're seeing on the streets are the ones that don't want to follow rules that are in the millions of beds that are available in Eugene. Thousands, actually. We have thousands of beds available in Eugene that I know are available. I deal with it every night. The ones on the street don't want to be sober. They don't want to give up the drugs. They don't want to follow rules. They get in disputes and fights, so they've been kicked out. That's what you're going to have here. 2 years ago, I arrested a guy from Ireland. And the reason why he told us he was in Eugene, because he got it from social media, heroin was cheaper, and he could get away with it and live for free. And that's why he flew from Ireland to Eugene. You're going to have that in Creswell. Social media is rampant. If you open this up, and you don't have the resources, the millions of dollars of resources that Eugene has, and this city will fail. And this has caused multiple businesses to leave. They have a business tax in Eugene where they tax now businesses and their employees. I get taxed for being an employee in Eugene that I pay into this tax. So many businesses that left town, they have a budget shortfall. They have to cut $20 million. We had to cut out $2 million out of our police budget. We are laying not police officers off, but other support positions. We're unable to do certain things, and it's all across the city. Can Creswell afford that? Can you afford your businesses to leave?
Okay, I'm going to ask if you can wrap it up.
I apologize. I will close. I will tell you that if you do this, you will lose. My last thing, and I didn't mean this in a bad way, but we are a country of the people. So my last thing is for the people. When this is voted, take note of who votes either negative and shuts this down or who votes for. Amen. And if you don't like who voted the way you want them to vote, then you get them out.
Our next speaker is Jeff Sullivan.
I don't know if anyone can say it better.
I've got to follow that. My name's Jeff Sullivan. I'm one of the newest members of Creswell. My wife and I moved here in August of last year.
So Jeff, we're going to take a brief reprieve because I have a couple of members of the council that need to go to the restroom.
No problem.
So if we can let the ladies out through here, anyone else? Let's take a brief reprieve.
Are you going to vote tonight?
I don't know.
No nameplate.
There was nobody ready.
I'll leave, so it's not
Okay, we're ready to reconvene. So because I've heard some of you asking, are we going to vote tonight? Let me answer that. So here's how the council works through an ordinance, and this is by our city charter. An ordinance is a two-step process for the city council in that it comes to the council for the first reading, which is tonight, and a public hearing. If the council were to vote unanimously on the ordinance or to amend the ordinance, because the ordinance can be amended, in other words, changed by the council, if the council were to vote unanimously on an ordinance, it would pass tonight. If the council does not vote unanimously, then it goes to a second meeting in June, at which time there's not a public hearing, but we address the ordinance the second time, and then if it passes by a simple majority, it goes into effect. So the predicament that we're up against is that the legislature has set a hard deadline of July 1st. That every city and every county in the state of Oregon must have reviewed and adjusted its ordinances by July 1st. So that's in terms of timeline. But in terms of tonight, when we're done with the public hearing, we'll hear a report from staff on the ordinance, and the council will discuss the ordinance. And as I said, if the council arrives at a place where they're ready to vote on the ordinance can also be postponed to a second meeting once it's read tonight. So that's the process. Yes, it could be voted on tonight. It can be amended multiple times. If it's unanimous, then it's enacted tonight. If it's not, it goes to a June council meeting. So that's just how the process works in the city charter. Okay, so our next speaker is Jeff Sullivan.
Thank you for the break. It gave me an opportunity to look around the room and read right on the wall, the city of Creswell exists to provide quality, reliable, affordable city services to city residences, businesses, creating a safe, livable, attractive community with a unique small town atmosphere. It's pretty difficult for me to reconcile that statement with the idea of creating a homeless campsite at Garden Lake Park. I have moved here in August of last year with my wife. We had the opportunity to discover residences from Corvallis down to Roseburg. We looked at many places, and the city of Creswell attracted us because of its inherent beauty, its cleanliness, lack of tagging. It looked like a community that cared about its existence and had some standards. What bothers me the most is I now have a property that has a backdoor path that enters to my property from Garden Lake Park. That beautiful cinder walkway that's back there that I walk my dog dozens of times a month back there would become totally a frightful place filled with these type of people. to allow that park to be used exclusively by the homeless, because that's what would happen. It would be used exclusively by the homeless. The community here would no longer have the opportunity to enjoy that park. It would be unsafe. It would just be absolute abrogation of the taxpayers of this city to lose that property. It's there on your own website about how it's a social gathering place, horseshoe pits, the frisbee golf, the lake fishing, picnicking and all that stuff for families. That would all be gone. Who would go there with hundreds of homeless people walking around? It just wouldn't work that way. My understanding is 3115 does not specifically designate that you have to allow that park to become a place for the homeless. This officer over here brought up the fact that Springfield has successfully, under the auspices of this rule, seemed to have been dealing with that issue, and it seems to me that our city attorney needs to get on the ball here and fight against this idea. I don't know what compelled your council to even consider this park to be a homeless encampment. I would assume, and I may be wrong, but I'm assuming your city attorney has perhaps guided you in this decision. And if that's the case, he needs to be reprimanded. I think that the idea of allowing that park to become a homeless encampment is just appalling, and it's clearly, you can see the community feels the same way. I'm not alone in that. And then the last thing I'd like to mention too, hasn't been brought up, what will happen to property values?
That's right.
Yes.
I mean, I'm paying $11,000 a year in property taxes for my property back here. What's going to happen to my property value if say down the road I want to sell my home, but I've got this big homeless camp behind my house now with this golfing community that I've joined over here off Emerald Parkway in St. Andrews Loop. It's architecturally a beautiful community. It's a safe community. People walk the sidewalks all the time with their dogs and their kids and everything else. I can't imagine at night what it's going to feel like if that park becomes full of homeless people, drug addicts and mentally unstable people. I just can't imagine what's going to happen at night. They can just walk right down that path, come right on out into that field, and all of our homes back there are totally exposed to that park. Who's going to protect us? I have no idea. So anyway, I urge you to reconsider this thought. It doesn't seem like that park is a valid place for a homeless camp.
Thank you, Jeff. Our next speaker is Deborah Yee. Now, one person pulled their name because they said everything I wanted to say has been said. So if you want to come up to the microphone and say, I echo everything that's been said, you can certainly do that. But we encourage you to come and speak to us. Next speaker is Deborah Yee.
I'm Deborah Yee, and I know I already spoke about the tough, but if you'll indulge me for a moment to give an analogy. I do not feel that I should have to reveal my lived life experiences or reveal what's gone on in my family to tell everyone that I certainly have common sense and I understand about homelessness, I understand about drug abuse. I have a family who lived many decades with an addict in our family. I'm happy to say that after over 14 years, he's clean of drugs, alcohol, he's no longer homeless, he's a functioning member of society, he has a great job, great wife, family, and is buying a house. That being said, my analogy, I am the middle child of 5 children. I was born in Eugene, I grew up in Lane County. The analogy I have is if during our lifetime, if one of my siblings had decided that they no longer wanted to conform to the family. And so they just decided they're no longer cleaning their room, they're no longer going to clean up after meals, they're no longer going to help with any chores, they're not going to do anything. So you have a small house with a mom and a dad and 5 children, bunk beds in all rooms, and all of a sudden one day they just decide they're not going to do anything. Well, mom and dad, because they're compassionate and they love all their children equally, unconditionally, they put up with it for a little while because they think, he'll grow out of it. They'll grow out of it. So everyone else in the family accommodates them. Next thing you know, because they're getting away with it and they're still getting blankets and they're still getting their bed and they're still getting the meals, they decide they're going to branch out and test it a little more. So next thing you know, they start throwing their stuff on the other beds. Well, the kids don't want to make their sibling look bad and they're trying to be kind because they'll grow out of it. So they move in the next bedroom. So now you have 4 children that are well-behaving, do the chores, help with everything. They're just thinking, we'll move in there, it'll be over soon. It's not over soon. You have 1 bedroom in that house, or 1 bathroom. So next thing you know, you go out in the hall, you leave your safety of your bedroom and mom and dad's into the house, and they're now camping out in the bathroom. They're dirty all the time, they have everything thrown all over, they don't flush the toilet anymore, they don't do anything. But they're gonna get over it. Pretty soon, they come in where the 4 are and they try to entertain them and engage them and they're starting to ruin their thing, and now everyone is down at one end of the house, unsafe, trying to even get to the hallway to get out of the house, let alone go through a dirty kitchen, go through a bathroom that hasn't had the toilet flushed in forever. The problem is, by thinking that you can somehow be naive enough that you can enable them and not have tough love, and not have discipline, and not have community order, you're making a huge mistake. My brother will be the first one to tell you that he used our love against us. So our love for him got used against us because we all tried to help and we thought we were helping him and we thought we were doing the compassionate thing. We let it get way too far down the road, not that we could have stopped until he was ready and hit rock bottom, but the thing that I want to say is, notice that the state of Oregon is not designating any of their own state land. Notice that the counties aren't designating their county lands, but they're making a global decision that the city has to somehow come up with a solution and provide the money and the land and everything else. They're ruining us from the inside out. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Our next speaker is Terry Stymack. Terry? Okay, I think Terry's not here. Next speaker is Kayla Hicks.
Hi, I'm trying not to get emotional, but 3 years ago, my husband and I decided to be home buyers. And we tried buying a house out there that way, 13 acres. It fell through, and I was like, you know what, thank goodness it did. I found a house that I call our dream home. I get to raise my 2 adorable little baby boys there. However, I have to drive by that park every single day when I go home. That means my children are going to have to see what is going on there. From what it sounds like we don't have to have this park. Am I correct? It's just, you guys are making it sound like we have to have it. We don't have to have it, right? So here's the thing. Somebody talked about well water. I have a well. So what happens when people start contaminating the water around my house? So my house, the airport is in my backyard. That is the best thing because I get to watch skydivers and I get to listen and watch the planes, and I absolutely love it. My boys love it. But what happens when we have homeless people coming in? What happens? You know, there's millions and millions of dollars of planes there, right? One of the first things it was said to me when I bought my house, hey, we're glad to have you. However, if a ball goes over the fence, please just call us. It is a federal fence if you go over the fence. Okay, got it. Told my kids, try not to throw any balls over there, not a problem. You get these homeless people that don't care about their consequences. So what's gonna happen? They go steal a plane or they steal property over there. They don't care. I'm sorry if this is triggering to anybody, but we recently had somebody in that neighborhood that tried to kill their spouse. I am just getting over that. Watching my security cameras, nighttime, losing sleep over it is draining, and it affects my work and everything. I don't want to have to worry about this in my neighborhood at all. I already, worry about people that drive too fast in that area. So now I'm gonna have to worry about drug use, needles, all that. What happens, there's a bus. There's a bus that comes down there every day. I let my little 6-year-old, I got him totally fine to walk to the bus stop. I won't let him walk to the bus stop now, absolutely not. I do not want my little child, look, all these kids are being kidnapped. And there's absolutely no way I could let my little guy do that. So, another thing is, okay, human waste is going into that pond, and we kind of touched base of it. What happens to my well? It goes into my well, I can't drink it, so now I have to spend my hard-earned money to now get city water? I don't find that that's fair. Drug control. I don't want to have to worry about that at all. How are we, I already kind of touched base with it, how are we going to protect the airport? I mean, officer, love you guys, thank you for everything you do. I know I've called on you guys before when I think something suspicious is going on in the airport. If he's out on something else and there's other stuff going on, what do we do? But ultimately, what is this teaching our kids? What is this teaching my 6-year-old? That you don't have to work hard? That you can live in a tent where camping is so much fun and this is a lifestyle you can have? No. You work hard for your money, you do good in life, and you'll be fine. But when you have a school bus going down to pick up those little kids, and there's homeless people, I don't want my son, my 6-year-old or whatever, seeing a naked woman or a person doing drugs or a naked guy.
That's right.
I'm sorry, I don't. I know that there's probably people, I'm all for a hand up, but not a hand out. I'm sorry. And we don't have to have this part. So please. For my babies, the other babies around here, please take this into consideration. We do not need a park in this town.
Thank you, Taylor. Our next speaker is Tim Glenn.
I'd like to thank the council for letting us speak today and giving us the time. It's much appreciated. My name is Tim Glenn, lived in Creswell for 19 years. I grew up in Eugene. Currently I work in Cottage Grove and manage one of the big businesses down there right next to the homeless camp they have down there. We have had many issues with the homeless camp down there. Frequently we've had to call the Cottage Grove police, which are great. They have a very great response time down there. They have a pretty good sized force, obviously considered to what Creswell has. We have had very, very many cart pushes. Our theft has gone through the roof since the homeless camp has been put in next door. Just recently they expanded the homeless camp. I've had the opportunity to talk to several of the people in the homeless camp over there as they come over to my facility that I manage, and they are from all walks of life. I met a guy the other day that came up from Tennessee, and he came up because the drugs are cheaper and they're more readily available, he said, and it's a nice place to live, he said. And so having something like this in our community, I think, is going to drive some of those people up here, because who wouldn't want to live next to a lake, especially for free? And you get to be able to get all kinds of extra benefits, incentives and stuff. And what happens in Cottage Grove is now the homeless people that live there, they start to blend in with the community. And so they start to come into the businesses, and they take things. The theft has went through the roof since that homeless camp has been in. The homeless camp people have called my facility and said, could you please stop sending the police over here to get your carts? We like to have the carts. Could you please stop sending the police? We don't like it when they come over. We said, no, give us our stuff back. We have customers that want to use carts to shop, and we need them back. And so, furthermore, the Garden Lake Park is important to me, my community. We have a youth group that we take over there frequently to play Frisbee golf. It gets the youth together. A lot of them are very bad at Frisbee golf. There's probably a few Frisbees out in the lake, which is a lot, not as bad as what would happen to the lake if the homeless camp came in. And furthermore, I beg you guys to not do that. The community needs that space. There's been lots of community involvement to make that space what it is and how nice it is. The community is involved. People show up to do all kinds of community service there, and it helps the community. So please don't take that away. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim. The next speaker is Stu Hag.
Close enough.
Close enough. Thank you, Stu.
I guess my name's Stu Hogg. I've been in Creswell for about 20 years or so. A lot of what I wanted to say has already been mentioned by other people. I sort of wonder, with this regulation 3115, if we didn't go along with it, we just refused to cooperate, what would happen? What would happen if a lot of cities got together and said, we're just not going to do it? Just sort of an idea, I don't know what they could do to us. Anyway, kind of a couple of approaches that I thought might work if you really feel compelled to create a space for the homeless people. In Eugene, we've heard lots of people talk about what happened in Washington Jefferson Park and what a toxic mess that's become. I talked to someone who works in the city up there, and I think they're past $1 million now trying to dig up the soil because it's penetrated the soil to such a degree that they can't get clean tests back from the lab. So they're having to dig and dig and dig to get rid of the feces, urine, drugs, all that combination of things in the soil. So, they're going to be spending a lot of money to try to clean that up. Do we really want that problem in our park? I'm not sure if the water supply comes from Garden Lake Park, but it seems like a very bad idea to do that close to a waterway like that. I think one of the solutions might be, if you're determined to create a space in town for them, is to sort of adopt what Eugene did and create exclusionary zones. So to keep this population moving. If you allow this group to stay anywhere too long, as in what happened in that park, then it's going to become toxic, and then it's going to be an unbearable cost to try to clean that up, a massive cost. So I sort of encourage you to consider making all the public parks, the schools, library, probably several other locations exclusionary zones, and that way they can't park, they can't camp there. Then they have to find their own spot on the public lands, and at least it's not in our public areas like that. Another potential idea, I talked to a Cottage Grove police officer this morning. He told me they've created, and maybe this other fellow who was just talking can address this, created that gravel park area behind Dairy Mart there, divided up into spaces, and that way they kind of can control where these people are, and essentially make the rest of the city kind of a large exclusionary zone. So that might be an approach to consider. Again, I live close to Garden Lake Park as well. I go running there with my wife. Again, we would want to be running through an area like that. You're just going to take the space away from all of us. I really don't see creating Garden Lake Park as a viable solution here. That's all I really wanted to say is, please don't do this. And this is a great town. I've lived for 20 years. I'd hate to see it dismantled in this manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Stu. Our next speaker is K-I-N-C, Kink Garner? Kirk. I'm sorry. I'm sorry there.
That's all right. Thank you for letting us come in and talk tonight. Appreciate everybody that showed up. Great to see the community. My wife and I have lived in Lane County for over 40 years, raised our kids in Eugene, been here in Creswell 8 or 9 years now, probably 8 years. I am currently a federal employee. Somebody, besides the police officer tonight, everybody had great comments, but a woman, I don't remember who it was, said, if you build it, they will come.
Absolutely.
I just worked up in Washington, Olympia, Washington, for the last 3 months. They have come. You can't even imagine the amount of debris from exit 105 to exit 111, thousands of tents and tarps, and people wandering out onto the freeway at night because they're drugged up. My staff has had their cars broken into in kind of a nicer area There's a park that I love to hike when I'm working. 2.1 miles, hypodermic needles everywhere, human feces everywhere. You think you're going to play Frisbee in that park when they're living out there? You won't be playing in any of the parks around here if it gets out of control like that. And I was actually told up there that the police officers can't even go in to these sites without a warrant to make an arrest unless they see a crime happening. Because it's personal, they have to get warrants to go in. We can't afford that in this community. And I just pray and hope that you all will take all of these things into consideration tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirk, and I apologize for not being able to. Okay, next speaker is Colleen Ellis. I got your name right, didn't I?
Yeah, you got it right.
Okay.
I think it's all been said. And a park, a homeless park right across here, that's not a good fix. I don't want them in any of our parks. I think we've heard all the reasons why we can't afford it. Our business is right adjacent. We have to ask them to move out of our parking spaces all the time. You know, we have, I don't know, 500 client per year that come to our business. We'd like to keep it here. We'd like to keep both. I've been in real estate. My husband's a tax consultant. If that park is right here or even over there, what are we saying? That we can't manage our own community? What are we saying to people that come and there's no place to park? We've got tents in our parking spots. We've had to ask them nicely and post no trespassing signs so that people don't park just in our parking places where people want to come to our business. So I think it's really been said well, and I appreciate all the research that has been done. Sam, you're great, and I can't say anymore. Thanks. Lived in Creswell my whole life. Grown up, raised my kids, my little grandkids come down to our office constantly. They ride their little bikes, they walk, go to the stores down here, go everywhere. I wouldn't let them do that anymore if they were in this situation.
Thank you, Colleen. Our next speaker is Sherry Jackson.
Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to speak on this matter tonight. My name is Sherry, and I've lived in Creswell since 2018, and I support the proposed ordinance. Frankly, I'm deeply saddened to see the humanity of unhoused people dismissed wholesale. I've heard sweeping assumptions and generalizations here tonight from my fellow community members that shock the conscious. Aren't we the friendly city? Unhoused members of our community are community members, just like anyone else. Penalizing or punishing the unhoused does nothing to resolve homelessness. It just pushes the issue out of sight and into other communities. Unhoused individuals face a number of daily obstacles to surviving on the streets. And trying to find more permanent shelter, having a sanctioned place to stay means one less problem to worry about. There are already mechanisms to address antisocial or unlawful behavior, and it shouldn't be assumed with evidence that unhoused people will be any more prone to this behavior than the general population. In fact, we heard here tonight from our law enforcement officer that the unhoused have not been the source of recent problematic behavior in Creswell. I haven't seen any reasonable alternate solutions proposed here tonight. Just repeated hopes that by ignoring this matter, it will somehow go away. We all know that is not a solution. Thank you again, Council, for this opportunity to address this important matter.
Thank you, Sherry. And our next speaker is Robert Bolanos. Robert Bolanos.
He's coming.
He's coming.
cast on his foot. He's a little slow probably.
Robert Bolanos, your turn.
Thank you. Apologies for not being completely prepared. I thought the council meeting was last week and I was out of town working, so I had about 20 minutes to kind of put my thoughts and some information together as reviewing this. Lots of opinions, lots of views, lots of passions on this issue. Homelessness, unhoused, whatever you want to call it. We all stand in different places with this, but it's one of those things that isn't going to go away. So as I look at this and I approach this proposal and the court decisions we've looked at that kind of bring us to the point that we're at right now, I'm trying to look at it with a little bit of compassion, understanding some of these folks that are in our community that are homeless, maybe at one time were friends, neighbors, family members of people in the community. I know personally there is at least one of the homeless people around here that I knew years past. I don't recognize him now, but it is somebody I have helped with on occasion with a meal, a couple bucks for gas, for his generator. And so just trying to, not prejudge everybody that comes through here. But again, we've got a handful that have been in our community for a while that I think we've all acknowledged that have not been a problem for our community, that have not necessarily been a challenge or an issue. The concern we're facing now is if we declare we are suddenly a sanctuary city, for that type of activity, what are we opening ourselves up to? A valid concern as we've looked around at Eugene, Springfield, and up and down the West Coast. Looking at House Bill 3501, the right to rest bill that I guess died today, and it was. So my first thought is, as we looked at this proposal for opening up Garden Lake Park and designating an area in Creswell for homelessness, was that a quick knee-jerk reaction either by the council, our city attorney, to kind of get ahead of what was coming with what right to rest may define for us.
Mess.
Yes, it is, and I'm glad it's gone. But then moving on to House Bill 3115, that was originally brought to us by our wonderful governor, Tina Kotek, when she was Speaker of the House. I don't know if there's really a whole lot of, again, I'm not a lawyer, not a politician, just somebody who kind of pulls this stuff up when I get bored and try to read through it all to see what we're talking about. 3115 seems to be a lot of objective, vague hyperbole that doesn't really define anything specific other than objectively reasonable regulations. Who defines objectively reasonable? And one of the tenets in there it talks about is reviewing your policies of city governments, and like we talked about, we're putting the burden on cities, not on counties or the state, but we do talk about allowing the folks who are looking for a place to sleep, someplace, a way to be warm and dry. But warm and dry does not include fires or open flames, which obviously in some of the other campsites in Eugene, Springfield, and around, controlling those open flames has been an issue on occasion. And it talks about any city or county law that regulates the acts of sitting, lying, sleeping, or keeping warm and dry outdoors on public property that's open to the public must objectively reasonable as to time, place, and manner with regards to person. Anyway, it's a lot of word salad there. But as you look at House Bill 3115, as you look at the Ninth Court of Appeals issue with the Boise lawsuit, and you look at the Federal Appeals Court decision with Blake versus Grants Pass, a lot of the issue that is addressed in those bills is not addressing that cities or communities may not be able to ban camping. It's about outright banning sleeping. So a traveler coming through, somebody passing through for the night, do they have the right to have sleep someplace in Creswell? A hitchhiker, a backpacker, somebody on a bicycle right across town. Again, I know that's not necessarily what we're specifically addressing. Do those people have the right to sleep someplace in public? And when you look at the decisions that come out of the Boise decision or Blake versus Grants Pass, it really hammered down on whether people have the right to sleep in public places. And it seems that as you look through some of these policies there, as long as there's no option of sleeping indoors, the government cannot criminalize homelessness or whatever. We talk about ordinances, but specifically with Boise, and also the Blake and Grants Pass, their homeless laws were addressing not allowing people to set up a tent or sleep on cardboard. And when it came to the Blake decision in Grants Pass, the court felt it was unreasonable not to allow a homeless person to put a piece of cardboard down between them and the wet ground or protection from the elements like a tent. None of those decisions, as you look up and down the West Coast and other cities, seem to prevent cities from limiting when people can sleep in public parks, like 9 p.m. at night till 7 in the morning. You can sleep. You can stay there no more than 12 hours or 24 hours. Defining what is considered a sleep structure or a permanent structure. For instance, cities are still allowed to ban pallets and setting up even tents and tarps and all those types of structures. So we seem to have some leeway in the city of Creswell with what we can offer, what we can restrict, and yet still try to provide a level of compassion to folks that are passing through town or looking for some place to spend the night. I mean, I'm sorry, I've got a lot of notes here, and I know we've been here a while, so I'm not going to read through like 8 pages of information I've got here. But as I've kind of looked at, summing up here a little bit, nothing in the decisions that came out of the courts seem to require homeless camps or campsites. It merely seems to address that you cannot restrict people sleeping at night in public spaces. You seem to be able to ban permanent structures or settlements. Cities like Portland, Eugene are still sweeping homeless camps on public property. Another example, the city of Spokane Valley in Washington, there's a discussion about whether you can ban camping if you don't have another place for those folks to sleep, whether it's homeless shelters, beds someplace else in town. Spokane Valley and another community in Washington, their city gives money to the county homeless shelters. So that's how they justify, okay, we're gonna ban camping, but we're giving money to provide beds someplace else in the county for homeless people. They have an ordinance that allows them to remove personal property, camping facilities, and any paraphernalia. Other cities have looked at putting a 24-hour limit and staying in one place. Prohibit camping in right-of-ways because you might be blocking sidewalks, people's disability access to getting around town and facilities, limit the amount of storage of personal property people can have in an area, limiting how close people can be sleeping together. If they're sleeping in a public area, no two sleepers can be more than 40 feet within each other. There are things that we can do, I think, that can still allow for a level of compassion for those looking for a place to sleep for the night without opening ourselves up to permanent campsites and structures and the issues those all bring with them. I'm just not sure why we've gone from looking at these legal decisions, again, I'm not a lawyer, but trying to read through all this information, and the precedent set and what other communities are doing. I'm just not sure why we're conflating campsites with someplace to sleep for the night and somehow managing where those folks sleep while still, again, trying to allow a level of hospitality and just some Christian love and welfare for these people. We've talked about the park. I'm not sure why Garden Lake Park is there, but I'm not going to beat that dead horse. You know, we do have public property right across the street like somebody's talked about, or if we're really that all fired up to provide some place for a permanent campsite, open up one of your public works lots. Let them sleep in the public works facilities within those gated areas, and the city can take care of cleaning that up. And I would probably reiterate the same thing as well. Council members that support opening ourselves up to permanent campsites, that needs to be something that needs to be reevaluated next election. But let's all try to treat each other with a little bit of respect, understanding we all come from different places, we all have different views and different values, and regardless, a little love and compassion for one another and the folks that we're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Our next speaker is David Koger.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I've owned property here in Creswell since 2007, and I also own property in Florida. And I can tell you that in the area I live in Florida, Florida is an ideal place for homeless people to come because the weather's always good. And what we've done there to solve that is we enforce the laws that are on the books. And we've also created farms where if you're really homeless and you need someplace to stay and you need food, if you work on the organic farm, you get a bunk in a bunkhouse, right? And you got to work 8 hours a day, but you get food and you get someplace out of the heat to stay. So if Creswell wants to do something to help the homeless, right, incentivize them to do something to help themselves. And I would suggest that. Opening up a park, somebody said it earlier, you build it and they will come. Just, you look what happens to all the other places that have built those parks and what has happened to those areas. It is a nightmare. I would suggest that you have your city attorney talk to maybe the city attorney of Springfield. Apparently they've got it a little bit better in order than they do in Eugene. So if the city council can tell the city attorney who to go talk to, right, and what to do. If he hasn't done that, you need to be taking him to task and find out why he hasn't done the proper research to do something to protect this city. Thank you. There's a lot of people, a lot of good stuff. The bottom line, if you build it, they will come, and this town will go to pot.
Thank you, David. So that concludes the speakers for the public hearing. So we now move on to our staff report on ordinance number 557. Manager Amberg.
Thank you, Mayor. There was a lot of good testimony tonight. I think we received a lot of good testimony in writing as well. And I think the City Council has quite a job before it to try and meet the intent of the state law as well as the wishes of the public. And our city attorney is here to answer any specific questions you may have.
Okay, so just so you all know, at this point, we move to the council needing to cover this item, so we won't have any more public testimony, and I ask for not having responses from the members of the public. So we will continue with the council business at this point. So, city council members, as per our charter, I'm going to read the ordinance once by title, and then ask if any councilor wishes to have it read in full, and then we will proceed to council discussion interaction. So the ordinance title is Ordinance number 557, an ordinance updating the Creswell Municipal Code relating to camping and parking. So I'm going to ask any councilor, do you wish to have the ordinance read in full? Okay, if not, then we will move on to opening the floor for council discussion. Councilor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, everybody, for coming tonight and speaking their mind and being honest. And I'd like to be honest, too. I stand with y'all. I move that the City Council amend Ordinance 557, specifically Section 2, last sentence, by removing the language, notwithstanding the above, Garden Lake Park is not subject to closure hours set out in this subsection unless otherwise posted.
Okay, would you restate your motion, please?
I move that the City Council amend Ordinance 557, specifically Section 2, last sentence, by removing the language. Notwithstanding the above, Garden Lake Park is not subject to closure hours set out in the subsection unless otherwise posted.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? We have a second from Councilor Holt. All right, we open up with council for discussion of the amendment to the ordinance. Councilor Shuck.
Thank you, Councilor Smith. You beat me to it. Well drafted. I support your motion.
Councilor Holt. Councilor Holt. Councilor Clark.
Councilor Smith, I'm hoping that you can speak just a little bit more to the purpose of the amendment and what you're hoping to achieve with that amendment, so that I can understand that a little bit more.
So my goal is as I read the ordinance, that we've had it changed a couple of times at work sessions, that we try to make this more difficult and more fair to the taxpayers of this town and make it more uniform. My goal is that by removing that language, it removes Garden Lake Park from being designated as an area of homeless.
All right, Councilor Clark, you had the floor previously. Anything further at this point? Okay. Councilor Manager Amberg.
Thank you. If right now the way that the ordinance is written, there are two areas for homeless to be. One is Garden Lake Park and the other one is the downtown area. If you remove Garden Lake Park, are you proposing some other remedy for camping? Then how do we meet the intent of the state law?
Councilor Castillo.
Which kind of goes to the question that I was going to get to, which is a question that was raised here tonight. I think essentially if that amendment was to be adopted and voted on, passed, that would pretty much mean that we are not doing anything. And if so, and that's a question for our city attorney, what happens if we do nothing? Is that fair to ask that question?
Can I say something while Ross is moving to the dais?
We're going to let our attorney answer the question first.
All right, so what if that amendment went into force and so there was no, so we would be left with on-street vehicle camping, but no other public property where someone could sleep without fear of enforcement. And so I think we would be in violation of 3115, and then we would potentially wait to get sued and put on a defense. The other thing about 3115 is that we wouldn't be able to enforce our camping regulations because 115 provides an affirmative defense to those citations if we don't have objectively reasonable ordinances in place. So arguably, if we do hand out citations for someone sleeping in Garden Lake Park, our municipal court would toss them.
Okay, Councilor Shuck, did you have a question for our attorney?
The amendment to the ordinance is simply to take out Garden Lake Park. We're still setting time, place, and manner, which is what the bill is asking us to do.
Right, but you're saying all time and all property. So it's all a matter, if someone wants to unroll a sleeping bag to sleep at night, they would not be able to do it in a park. They would not be able to do it on any other city property. So there would be no public property where they could unroll a sleeping bag. And so
Our camping ordinance becomes in your vehicle in the designated areas that we set forth in the ordinance only.
Right.
And you feel that that still violates or doesn't meet the requirements of 3115.
Right, that's my opinion because it forces you to have a car. I mean, as a policy, I mean, I'm telling you the risks. You all get to make the decision, and so I just want to make that clear. I think we've been very clear in my tenure here. Is I don't make policy decisions. That's your job, and so I'm just identifying the risks, and I believe the risks are twofold. Number one, that as it would be written, the ordinance wouldn't comply with 3115, and so you could be subject to lawsuit. Also, it would be subject to, I think someone would have an affirmative defense if they are issued a citation and called into community court. I think they would have a defense to get that citation dismissed. So that's just the risk.
That's not correct. That's not what's written in UG.
Excuse me, I've already said this is the council's time now to interact. Councilor Holt.
I have lots of questions, but I'll start with one. First of all, I roll back. I was on the same page as the guy talking about the unfunded mandate. I kind of agree with that. And so I think maybe we need to do our due diligence and look into that a little bit more. I would like to make a motion that we postpone this and we put it back to work group. I think we have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of stuff in here that I can tell you I want to change just looking at it. All these whereas statements, I think some of these are absolutely unnecessary. I think we're doing overkill and making it easier for people. I have family members that are homeless. I am compassionate, but I'm also realistic and I understand what they're willing to do for themselves versus, what people are doing for them. I mean, The fact is that a lot of them just don't care. They live this as a lifestyle, okay? And so, anyway, I'd like to make a motion to postpone and put this back to work group next month.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor that has been seconded. So I believe we must deal with that prior motion that was seconded, unless you're wishing to amend the motion. The motion that was made by Councilor Smith to amend the ordinance, and it was seconded.
I believe that now you deal with this motion and then you back it up. I believe that's the correct way.
Well, I'm going to have to get input
So is it a
from our
motion,
attorney.
so is it a motion to table? Is that what you're?
I know, I said postpone.
Postpone.
Yes, there's a difference.
Okay.
Table would mean that it would die. Postpone means that I'm asking for it to go back to work session because I think we need to work together on this ordinance and not just keep having something brought to us by the city attorney. No, my apology, but I think that we need to have these conversations on each piece of this. I do.
No offense taken.
Can I get your thoughts on it? We had a motion that has been seconded.
Do you have the order of, do you have your book?
Yes, I do. Okay, so the main motion is rank 1. Then it can be amended, but Councilor Holt, I didn't believe you were amending the motion. It can
No,
be
I just
amended.
made a new motion.
So it can be amended, but I don't see where we can make a motion. I believe we have to vote on the first motion that was made and seconded. And that motion can be amended, but I believe that a motion to postpone is a different motion. So,
I believe we need a parliamentarian next time we have a meeting.
can you give us any direction on this?
Yeah.
Back a couple pages is the main motion.
I will withdraw my motion. We can continue on. Yeah?
Oh, well, the page I was on gives the main motion, and then it goes through the rank. Right here is main motion, and then amendment can be amended. And then you have amendment, which is a higher rank.
So think that you have
Sorry.
Which is
Yes.
now that it's been seconded, it's
Now belongs to the council.
I gave you a ride back.
Well, I lied, it's really getting late.
Motion to debate, motion to postpone. Debate, have to have a second.
Where they separate themselves. Yes. Yeah, I think our My motion was valid, I already know it. I do, but I'm not going to be the token bear.
Always go home and have a beer.
I worked for yours. I lived up on Ordinance. I used to see walking down the middle of town, pushing his shopping cart and yelling at people. They can't tell me this. I hate having this town. I've seen it.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor from Councillor Holt to postpone this. Now, I believe you need to postpone it to a date certain, so.
I said to the next, I see what you're saying, for the meeting itself, not just saying for the next work session. Okay.
Because this decision does have to come back to the council.
Yes.
So it will be, your motion would be to postpone to.
To our June meeting.
To our June council meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so is there a second on the floor? Is there a second to the motion?
Yes. Yeah.
Hang on just a second, Councillor Amber.
Can I just ask for clarification? Did you mean for it to go to the work session?
No.
Or to the next city council meeting? Because the work session would be May 22nd.
The ordinance would go to the June council meeting for decision, but we could put it on the agenda item for the work session for further discussion.
Yes.
So May 22nd?
Would be just the work session for discussion, but the ordinance would go to the June council meeting for the second reading and then the vote.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, the second reading?
Tonight, I already read it. Tonight was the first reading.
I understand, but okay, okay. So we can do amendments if we need to at the work session. Okay.
We can massage the entire thing and give direction.
Perfect.
We can massage it as we did on the tough ordinance.
As long as we can make changes to it between now and the next meeting, I'm fine with that.
I believe we can massage it, work it over, and give new directions to our attorney for drafting it.
Okay.
And you'll allow public input at the work session?
We always do.
Just being certain.
Yes, indeed. So we have a motion to postpone to the June council meeting. Is there a second? Second from Councillor Smith. All right, so the floor is continue open for discussion on the motion to postpone. Right, council will proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. So that means the ordinance will come back at the June council meeting, second Monday of June, for the second reading and the vote. And at the work session, which 2 weeks from tonight at 6 p.m., the council will work on it some more. So you are welcome to attend, send emails in, communicate individually with council members, and we'll work on it some more.
Thank you.
Right. You're welcome. We're going to take a brief break, bathroom break, or whatever you need. Stand up, stretch break. Thank you.
Stuff I work in a lot.
You should try it from up here.
Let me think, because my daughter's a dispatcher. To go on a ride-along, but I have to go with him first. I'm going with him.
One of the best things I'm doing tonight, and I'm glad somebody said it, yeah, they don't like the outcome. This whole deal came from.
It's crazy how they'll enforce that. They won't. Isn't it? So she's.
I didn't vote for any of them.
I know, I'm aware of that.
They just make deals.
I'm aware of that.
That is incorrect.
Well, I guess the city attorney said that. He is, so I take what he says.
You know why they're watching Jefferson cleaned up last time, right? We had the unlimited driver. That's why they cleaned it up. It had nothing to do with it.
I thought I saw my motion.
Right, I knew. Somebody said they have to lift all the layers of the topsoil, yeah.
I thought the line was already set, but I do see a couple of warehouses.
But I think,
It does say public right of way.
Parsons gone up.
Making more bans in order to
Well, and that's what we need is we know the problem. It's like a broken record, so we need solutions, we need ideas. None of that service is put up. Because boiling it down is
Explain to them. If the homeowners want to hang out there during the day, they can, it's just like everybody else. But at 10 o'clock, they stay there, light. You're turning it off. That is
my kids walk up saying,
Well, I encourage you to continue this one. We can really use this in the I appreciate what you said to me. Every moment.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for everything you had to say, and thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. My dad was a Lincoln chair.
Otherwise, I was going to spend the whole night.
We have time for
trying to amend stuff, and I didn't think that was
It doesn't matter. My dad was a Lincoln chair.
what they've done is
Okay, you ready?
actually, my brother was
I'm just curious.
Just go fill it up.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Reconvene.
We have to get back, sorry. Thank you.
All right, we are reconvening. We move on to item 6B, which is the second reading of ordinance number 555. So I will read the ordinance. Title, ordinance number 555, and ordinance amending Creswell Municipal Code Title 13 to add a new chapter adopting a transportation utility fee. So I'm asking if the council, any council members wish to have the ordinance read in full. Okay, if not, then we have a staff report from Manager Amberg.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, you've been talking about transportation utility fee for quite some time. And it's taken several months to get information out to the public. And City Council is ready to make a decision, I think, on what to do with the transportation utility fee.
All right, so with that, the floor is open. First of all, any questions for Manager Amberg first? If not, then the floor is open on item 6B. We've had the first reading. Councilor Shuck.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to share with fellow councilors a letter I received just prior to tonight's meeting from Seth Clark with Blue Valley Bistro. Seth has been present many times in our work sessions. He's also planning commissioner for the city. And he's worked directly with Director Piper regarding how this tough fee would impact his business. Tammy, I had full intentions on joining this evening's meeting to go on record and voice my support for the tough, per a personal invitation from Mayor Stram. Unfortunately, between a family member and car trouble leaving me with just one vehicle and overlapping time commitment, I will not be able to attend. If the situation permits itself, please use this email as public record. I, Seth Clark of Blue Valley Bistro, located at 116 Milton Road, wish to show my support for the tough. As a business owner and homeowner in this community, I fully understand and support the need to maintain our existing roads and look forward to future developments, including the potential for a sidewalk down South 10th. As a business, I'm willing to pay more than a resident, but also have voiced my concern about pricing businesses out of town. I believe the revised numbers shown to me, taking my business from $500 per month down to $50 per month, is a fair deal. If those numbers stand, I would be in support of a yes vote. Thank you in advance, Seth Clark.
Thank you, Councilor Shep. Okay, the floor is open.
I'm not sure where we're at in this process.
Councilor Holt.
Sorry, my apologies.
Councilor Holt.
I'm very confused. You read the ordinance.
By title.
And
Yeah.
so are we vote on it next? Is that where we're at?
We are at the second reading, so yes, tonight we will vote on it. So tonight, right now, we're having discussion. We're open for motions.
Okay.
It's now our time.
All right.
We've read the ordinance twice.
Perfect.
This is the second
Thank
meeting.
you.
So we're
yeah.
ready to go with it.
I'm not used to the two-meeting thing. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. I'm going to move that the City Council call a city election no later than November 5th, 2024 for the purpose of referring to the legal voters of Creswell, Oregon, a measure to adopt ordinance number 555, an ordinance amending Creswell Municipal Code Title 13 to add a new chapter adopting a transportation utility fee.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Councilor Smith seconds the motion. So a question for clarification on the amended ordinance that we had here, the second one, the date was August 7. Did you say August 7 or August 5? Just want to make sure the dates. November, I'm sorry.
I said no later than November 5th, 2024. That gives us the option of putting it on an earlier ballot.
No later than November 5th?
Yes.
Okay, so the date November 7, should that be amended here? That's in the...
No, she's saying 2024, which this is 2023. So she says no later than the next general election, which addresses the issue of paying for the election.
Yes.
No later than November 2024?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right, so we have a motion on the floor and a second. Council discussion. Well, does anybody want to speak?
I don't know what to say. I'm not ready to vote on that, but it's on the floor. So, we have been talking about this for 2 years. And our roads continue to deteriorate. And other cities have tough fees in place, some as high as $16 per residential single-family dwelling. What we're proposing is 4. It's lower than Veneta. I have been out in the community and it's pretty much split. the folks that I've talked to. Some are in favor, some are opposed. I just read on behalf of Commissioner Clark his viewpoint, which was in favor, but I do know that Los Cabos owners across the street are opposed. Director Piper, can you share with us, have you given them their exact number across the street at Los Cabos?
Yeah, we work with them across the street.
Because I know the square footage we had originally was way off.
Can you come to the podium, please?
Sure, yes. We sent Public Works over there to get exact measurements. The measurements from the Lane County Assessor's website was for the entire building. And so after Public Works did a walkthrough with permission and got the measurements, we got them a new fee.
Can you speak to what that new fee would be? Because the original fee was $136 a month? Manager Amber?
Part of what happened was it was divided into the businesses and into residential area and things like that. So that fee was actually divided up and assigned to the specific activity that was going on in the square footage. So Jim would have to have in front of him the list of items and what the fee was, and I guess he didn't bring that tonight.
I didn't bring that tonight, no, but as Manager Amberg said, two of the units were apartments, so those were $2.79 per unit, as opposed to being charged $16.18 per square foot, or per 1,000 square feet. So you can imagine there's a huge difference in the fee there. Also, the businesses like the video rental store is in a completely different category of vehicle trips. So it was substantially different for just the restaurant itself.
So did you have a follow-up conversation with the owners of Los Cabos?
I did not myself. Our utility clerk went over and delivered the letter in the news, and they seemed very appreciative.
Good. Councilor Shuck.
I found it. I had lost it earlier because I'm not good at computer work. The average in the state for the tough fee is $7.95 per single family residence, and what we're proposing is $4. So that's what I didn't have in front of me when I was speaking earlier. Westland is the $16, Veneta is $6. My daughter lives in Hillsborough, it's $9.11 there. I feel as that I was part of the road ad hoc committee, and we just keep kicking this down the road for 2 years. And it's time to do something to fix 2nd Street. If not, we're using as much tax money as we are allowed, correct me if I'm wrong, Manager Amber, to fix our streets, and it's not enough. And the road ad hoc committee, we looked at all different types of measures to raise money, and this was the suggestion. We had a lot of public input then. We've continued to have work session after work session after work session, and I think waiting until general election 2024 is not a good idea.
Councilor Holt.
I'm not asking to wait until then, I'm just setting a deadline so we have an opportunity to complete it before then. We can put it on a ballot anytime we want. When we put it on a ballot determines whether or not it costs money for us to put it on the ballot. And I think that's really the biggest thing. And I'm going to go back to what I discussed in the last meeting when I originally tried to make a motion to amend in Emerson College versus City of Boston. Let's read the definition of voluntary, which to be a fee, it has to be voluntary. The party paying the fee has the option of not utilizing the governmental service and thereby avoiding the charge. In general sense, a fee is a charge for a direct public service rendered to the particular consumer, while a tax is a forced contribution by the public to meet public needs. Now, when I asked about this earlier on, you know, I said, is this a fee? I said, what's the service they're getting? They said, well, they're gonna drive on our roads. I moved here with the assumption I could already drive on these roads. And this is, you know, and so I am not opposed to the transportation utility fee. I'm opposed to us making this decision for the community. I think that the reason they didn't go with the gas tax, it's very well stated in the thing, and one of the reasons they didn't go with it is because they felt the community would vote no on it. I don't think that passes the sniff test for being a reason not to be put to the voters. I don't like it. This is just my personal opinion. And so therefore, I have made the motion to put it to the voters because I think that's the appropriate place for it.
Councilor Smith.
Thanks, Mayor. I respect all the councilors before me and the research and the work that you guys have put in. I really do. I just think this is a new council and it's new to some of us. And I stand with Stacy in the sense of, you know, personally, I probably don't have a problem paying the fee. However, it's very important to me that the voters vote. It's important to me that I do what you guys want me to do. It's not just my voice, it's your voice. And it's vital that, just like the public safety fee, we had issues for a while, and eventually the voters wanted police, and we wanted voted in police, we wanted sheriffs, we got them. We got 5 of them. I think this, if we present this in the right way, and we are transparent, give all the correct information, maybe we have every fee, which I feel like the fees are pretty well locked down, Jim. I feel like you guys really have worked hard. I don't want to discredit that. I know you've worked hard to really get everybody the correct fee as best they can. I just think time-wise, it's just we're trying to force it through a square peg through a round hole, and it's just not quite working. And I think if we present this in the correct way to the voters, that we request the fee and give them the option to vote on, and this is why, and that they understand that every penny has to go to roads and goes nowhere else, and that we're extremely transparent in that, I think we'll get the votes that we need because we all want the roads. And we do have the money to get roads, but it's every 6 years. It would be nice to have it every 3 years. But that's your decision. It's not mine. I'm here for you. So I do appreciate and respect everyone that's put in the years. This is a lot more work than I anticipated, but it's eye-opening, and I do respect all of you for doing what you have, but I really feel like this needs to go to the voters as well.
Councilor Chuck.
Director Piper, Manager Amberg, any idea the cost to put it on the ballot?
The county gives us the cost, and it's generally based on how many other things are on the ballot, because other entities can share the cost. So it's very difficult to predict what the cost is going to be up front. Typically, we've looked at anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000 for an election where we are the sole thing on the ballot. But there's, once somebody starts down that road, there's others that can pile on and then they share the costs. So it's very difficult to say at this point.
For Manager Amber, to follow up.
Councilor Holt.
What are the elections that we don't get charged
Speak
in?
into the microphone. Thank you.
Is it just the general election that we would not get charged into, or is it also the primary for that election?
It's the general election.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll speak then a little bit on this. So I was thinking today about summarizing my thoughts, because we've talked about this for a long time. Originally, it started in 2019 when the city updated their transportation master plan, and what became apparent was our roads were failing at a faster rate than we could afford to fix them. And so if you lived in Creswell for a long time and you drive the roads, you know that's true. And I've also talked with a lot of Creswellians. Nobody disagreed with me on that point. All those years ago, I had little children and I'd take them to school, and I couldn't let them walk or ride because there's no sidewalks on the roads where we live. So now I have a son who has moved back to Creswell, and when he has a family, his children still don't have sidewalks to walk on. And that was 32 years ago. So this is a really, really hard one that's been facing our city for a long time. And we don't have the tax revenue we once had from timber. So every city is facing problems of how do you fix roads. And quite frankly, we're not going to get the dollars from the city or state or federal government, so we have to decide ourselves. How do we want to fix the roads? What pace do we want to fix them at? It's clear to me that we have a problem. It's also clear to me that we need a solution. And we've talked about various solutions. We talked about the road tax, the gas tax. That was first of all talked about, I think, in 2020 and 21 by a almost completely different council. And they did make the decision not to take it to a vote. And one of the reasons was that in 2021, the climate was such that they didn't think anybody would vote for anything. So that was part of it. The other thing was it became very apparent that our consultant said gasoline tax is a regressive tax because fewer people are driving cars. So for a number of reasons, for instance, the city of Coburg has a gas tax and a transportation utility fee, and they're thinking of raising the fee because they still can't afford to fix the roads in Coburg. So Creswell, you cited Veneta has a transportation fee. I believe Cottage Grove, well, I won't speak to that, I'm not sure what they have down there. They're working on it, but well over 30 communities in the state of Oregon have transportation fees. We asked our consultant, are they ever voted on? And his answer was they've never been voted on. So it's not normal that you vote on a fee. So I will make this statement that what Councilor Holt said was a fee is voluntarily has to be able to be refused. Well, in Creswell, we have water fees and sewer fees, and if you live in Creswell and you own a piece of property, you can't actually refuse to pay to have water or sewer. It's a fee based on the service. You can refuse it if you don't want to own any piece of property that has water or sewer provided, but otherwise, there's a base charge for those things. And every Creswellian who owns a business or a church, churches pay for water and sewer fees, but they don't pay for taxes. So that's a fee you can't refuse. When we had the public safety, that never did go to a vote. That was never voted on. We talked to Creswellians. We held numerous public work sessions, town halls, and we asked Creswellians 2 questions. Do we need more law enforcement? So it's been stated several times tonight how much law enforcement we have. 10 years ago, when I was mayor, the first time around, we had two officers. And people said, we need more than 2 officers in Creswell. But they also said, we do not want another tax. We don't want this put on as a property tax. So we said, how to pay for it? And they said, charge us a flat fee per officer. So it was $6. To add a 3rd officer was $6. To add another officer, guess what? Another $6. To get to 5 officers, another $6. So if you look on your utility fee you get home, it's up to about $17 now. But the people in Creswell have consistently through the years said, we need 5. In fact, we probably need 6 or 7. Because in Creswell, to have full-time law enforcement, we've been told we would need between 7 and 8 deputies. We don't have 24-hour, 7-day-a-week coverage. So we don't vote on water rates or sewer. You're charged a base rate, and then based on usage, goes up. We never have voted on public safety, though we've asked people many times. We do, on Sanapac, you have a choice on your wastewater. That isn't billed to you on your utility bill. That's a separate billing, and you don't have to have Sanapac take care of your garbage service. So yes, you get a choice on that one, on your garbage. So it's not a usual thing to vote on a fee. It is a tax. So I was talking to a pastor here in Creswell about the transportation fee, and he mentioned it as a tax. And I said to him, oh, well, it's a good thing then that you don't have to pay anything. And he said, but Dave, I do have to pay if you pass the public safety thing. I said, not if it's a tax, because churches are nonprofit and they don't pay taxes. And then he said, oh, so I'm paying because it's not a tax, it's a fee. I said, yep, churches, not all the nonprofits will pay, and I used to be a pastor, so I know about churches paying, because it's not a tax. It's a fee based on a service. What is the service? It's the roads. We do receive about $480,000 a year, I believe is the number from the state, for roads, and about, Cliff is here, our public works director, about $300,000 of it goes for routine maintenance, which leaves us a balance of $180,000 a year. So we accrue that, and it takes about 6 years to do a major project. And in the 40 years I've lived in Creswell, we've done Oregon Avenue, we've done A Street, and we've done 5th Street. From what I can remember, 3 main projects in 40 years. So it's clear to me we have a problem. It's clear to me we need a solution. It's also clear to me that we have a responsibility. It's been mentioned, I've heard people mention taxation without representation. Well, I totally agree. But this isn't a tax, and the people of Creswell elect every 2 years representatives. We're a representative democracy. And as it's been stated tonight, if you're not happy with the decisions made by your representatives, then you go to the polls in 2 years and you vote for new representatives. So we, 7 members up here, have a responsibility. It's been stated where our mission is on the back, to provide quality, reliable, affordable city services, to have a safe, livable community. So that was the charge I took. Every time I've been sworn in as mayor, that was the charge I took. To look out over the community and say, what do we need to make this a safe, livable community for everybody who lives here? For children walking on sidewalks, for people riding bicycles, for vehicles driving the roads. What does it take? And you elect 7 people to represent you and make what you've already seen tonight, really, really hard decisions. Really hard decisions. And this is a hard one. This is a hard one. But the city of Creswell has 5 essential responsibilities to everyone who lives here. 5 responsibilities: to provide water, sewer, sanitation services, of which you have an option, Sanipack, where you can haul it yourself, public safety, of which you've heard how we're funding that. So water and sewer fees. Sanipack, not a fee, not decided by the city. Public safety, a fee now, based on property taxes and what we want, not 2 deputies but 5. And the 5th essential responsibility of the city is to provide transportation. And I've thought about all 5 of those. If we don't have transportation, all of our water and sewer run underground. All of our garbage services provided, or even if you haul yours, you've got to have a road. Our public safety depends on roads. So I've come to wonder whether the most essential service we provide to Creswellians are not the roads we travel on. And our consultant said to us, time is your enemy. Your roads are falling apart at a faster rate than you are repairing them. It's not just Creswell, but we, Creswell, have a problem. We have to come up with a solution to the problem. And I think we, the 7 members, have a responsibility. And as it's been mentioned, we became aware of this problem 4 years ago. But I dare say that over the last 20 years, our city council has known we had a problem, because it hasn't developed overnight. And so I believe it is time that we take action. Now, it'll cost the residents $4 a month. I've talked to a lot of people. I talked to 2 women out for a walk a couple weeks ago, elderly women. And I asked them, and they both acknowledged they're on fixed incomes. But they both said to me, we gotta have roads and sidewalks. We walk on the sidewalks in Creswell. And when we can't walk on a sidewalk, we're in danger. And they both said, we'll need $4 a month to work because we need the roads and we need it for the future. We need it for our future kids. So I think I've talked to about 25 some odd business people and 25 some odd residents, and everyone's acknowledged that we have a problem. They all know that we need a solution, and the vast majority of them have said, we get it, and we want you to do what is in the best interest of all of us, and we need to have this tough. So I think it's time that the council take action. Councillor Holt.
I would be interested in knowing how many people that have been talked to or have been communicated with know that this is going to be subject to being raised every year. I think that gets failed to be mentioned a lot. I know I commented about that lack of public outreach in our printed documentation. I'm not calling this a tax. I'm saying that I think it is a tax disguised by the word fee. And I do agree with you that we do need to move forward with something. But I would argue that you're asking, not even the entire city of Creswell will be covering this, right? It would just be the people. Which ones?
City limits.
Within city limits, right? And at least something like a gas tax would capture all of those cars that come off the road. You know, it would help us pay. I mean, because Sandy Pac's not going to be paying for this. They tear up our roads probably more than we do. You know, there's a lot of reasons I think this should go. But anyway, I just wanted to comment that everybody keeps talking about $4 a month isn't that much. They missed the part in the documentation that stated clearly that this can be reviewed every year and potentially be raised. And I heard when we first started working on it that potentially by COLA we could raise it every year, you know, and so that concerns me. You know, we're creating an open-ended fund that never sunsets. That concerns me. So anyway, I'm done. I've said my piece.
So I will just respond to, so the ordinance states, TUF review, the adjustment to the TUF determined by section 13.40 will not be automatic or predetermined. The city council will review the TUF program and modify the TUF collected at its sole discretion. Annually, the Water Rate Advisory Committee will meet to review the amount of the TUF and make a recommendation of that amount to the city council at the February work session. So to me, that says two things. The way our water and sewer works is many cities will do a water and sewer study every 5 years, and then we'll set rate adjustments based on that. What the city decided a number of years ago was that rates would be set 1 year at a time based on actual cost, because we felt that what was only fair to the people in Creswell was pay the actual cost. Don't pay based on a guess every 5 years. Pay the actual cost 1 year at a time. The TUF will be reviewed by the same people, which is composed of 3 councilors and 3 community members. So there's a lot of things that we do that we review with community members as well. Plus, the TUF, as well as water and sewer, is ultimately decided by the city's budget committee, which, as I mentioned tonight, is composed of 7 councilors and 7 citizens. So there's a review process that we've determined it'll happen every year, because we do need to be sensitive. All of us are going to be paying the TUF as well. And so that's the review program. Councilor Castillo, I think you had your hand up.
Sure, no, thank you for reading that section. I was going to mention that it is not automatic. It's not just a given that it's going to go up. Potentially it could go up. And there's also a appeal process written in there. So if you feel like you're not getting, it's not fair, you can appeal it. It's in there. And also, it's also in there that at any point in time, a council, different council, probably not us, can end this at some point, where I don't think you can with a tax. So, but also I wanted to say that I have since from the beginning of this, I have very mixed feelings on the TUF, because I feel convicted that we are not letting it go to the vote. But I also am very well aware, it is very obvious that our roads are in bad shape and they need the work. And they're not gonna get fixed by themselves. We could go back, and this is me talking to myself, we could just go back and be happy with trying to get a project done every 6 years or step up and complete a project every 3 years to help keep our city looking nice, keep the roads nice. That project down there on, is it A Street? It looks so nice. I mean, it looks great. And look how long it took to get that project done. But also, someone had commented about, I think it was you, my comment about people not knowing about this.
I took that straight out of.
Yes, and you're correct. I spoke with, I'm probably up to about 70 people.
2 out of 50.
Yeah, there were a very small handful, but out of all those people, they didn't know about it.
Right.
But 5 of them, I would say, disagreed with it. Nobody else disagreed that our roads were in bad shape and needed to be repaired.
But could I ask something? But did you ask any of them, would they prefer to have the fee brought down by the power of the pen, or would they like it to be a vote? Because I don't think there's anyone in this room or in this city who doesn't agree that every pothole needs to be fixed and that we want to see improvements. I'm not objecting. It's not the $4 that matters.
And that is where I am at a crossroads.
Yeah.
That is where we also spoke about, these are hard decisions to make. And someone commented, I think I've heard 2 or 3 times, vote the guys out. Vote them out. Okay, well, you know what? In 2019, when I was elected, I didn't have anybody, there was 2 people. We still had 1 spot to fill because nobody wants to do this.
I know.
My friends tell me I'm a glutton for punishment. When I was elected this year, you know who the only guy in the ballot was? Me. You know why? Because nobody wants to do this. So I say, yeah, vote us. You don't like it? Vote us out. Somebody you out there, get on that ballot and do a better job for the city of Creswell.
Or just let us vote.
I don't think that comment.
Okay, excuse me, this is the council time.
I didn't mean to offend anyone, but I'm just letting you know how my position is here on the dais.
Right.
So we're just volunteers trying to do the best we can for the city of Creswell.
Right.
So with that said, it's getting late, I'm not gonna take any more time. I'm done. Thank you.
Councilor Smith.
A question for Jim and a comment too. Jim, with some of the fees kind of being reduced from, that we mentioned, Los Cabos, and Councilor Shutt brought up Blue Valley Bistro, are we, I assume other businesses are probably being reduced, are we even hitting that $255,000 mark with all these reductions?
That's going to be something we'll have to look into that first year, because we're going to have people who have waivers, and that's yet to be determined.
Thank you. I know we're bringing numbers, I won't try to put you on the spot, but I'm hoping you had a ballpark. My comment is also everything that you have said, Mayor, is not wrong, but timing is important too. And I'd like to remind the people that there is a stormwater fee coming. Santa Pac has asked us to approve an increase. There's inflation because of a lot of bad management from the federal level, and I think right now is probably the wrong time when the economy is appearing to take a serious downturn, and I think timing is everything. And so it's just another comment on your facts and what you've spoke on.
Councilor Shutt.
Since Council President brought it up, I wanted to also chime in on, if you don't care for the council actions, vote them out. I was appointed to council. I was a planning commissioner. I'm probably going to start crying right now. I'm a realtor, and planning commission is very near and dear to my heart. I want to see our city grow outside the UGB, and that helps my family financially. No hidden agenda, but being a planning commissioner was right down my alley. I was licensed in 1995. I care very much about getting first-time home buyers into homes. I was also the pre-construction manager for all of Adair Homes, the largest on-your-land home builder in the state. And I know a lot about zoning and planning, but I was begged to leave being a planning commissioner and to sit here as a counselor because nobody wanted to fill this spot. Nobody. And I work 6 days a week. And 8 of us that are sitting up here tonight have to get up in the morning to work, just like probably all of you do. And this is not a fun position. My favorite place to eat in town, last week I walked in and the folks in there did not know that I was opposed to Garden Lake Park being designated for camping. And I was harassed and ran out right here in our town. My brother's been here 32 years and I've been here 9, and I never would have guessed that would have happened. The owners of that establishment were here tonight in support of whatever I decided to vote, which was very kind of them. But I have and will always vote what I hear constituents say to me. And I have, as a member of the Road Ad Hoc Committee, as a member of the Transportation Board, with Councillor Clark on Lane Act, and Mayor Strand involved with all the small city groups. I lost my words tonight. Lane Council of Government, thank you. I am in favor of the TUF. That is what the majority of voters in the city of Creswell have told me. I am a fiscal conservative. I will sing it from the rooftops, and I do not want our city spending $10,000 to $12,000 on a vote that's going to come out with the same thing that Alonzo and Shelley and Norma Jean and I have heard from our constituents. If Councillor Holt and Councillor Smith haven't heard that, then I'm shocked. I understand the conviction to put it to the voters, but I can't support the idea of putting this to the voters. It's irresponsible fiscally.
Councillor Holt.
I'm a little concerned about comments you made, how, you know, having better roads could benefit your business. That seems a bit...
No. Being a planning commissioner and having a voice in...
Hang on a second. Councillor Holt has the floor. I want to allow Councillor Holt to continue.
Okay, that's fair. That's not the way I heard it, so I just wanted to clarify.
All right.
And also, again, it doesn't have to cost us a penny if we wait till the general election. There are options here, so.
Councillor Shuck.
It will cost us immensely if we wait until the general election, because our roads will continue to deteriorate and the cost of the materials in which to repair those roads and the labor in which to repair those roads will continue to go up. Just like we heard from the public speaker at last month's meeting who said, I came here tonight to apologize that I was on council 18 years ago and didn't fix the roads.
So, Councillor Clark.
I just wanted to say that I'm in concurrence with Mayor Strayman and Council President Castillo.
So the comment I wanted to make was I don't hear from Councillor Holt or Councillor Smith that they're opposed to the TUF or to, you know, what we've said a number of times is we need a funding mechanism, which we don't have for roads. So I don't hear the opposition to that. What I hear is that you believe it should go to a vote of the people.
Yes.
Okay, just to clarify.
Yes, absolutely. I would champion, I would help get it passed. I think my conviction is that this should have gone to the people in the first place and shouldn't have been kicked down the road for years, going around to the people. And that seems to be, in my view, what has happened. I'm not saying that I know that is fact, but that's just what I've seen.
Councilor Castillo?
Yes, thanks for reminding me. Actually creating a funding mechanism is actually in our strategic plan. So it's there in the document.
Councilor Smith?
Just a quick one too, I did forget that we also are, we have an option, as citizens always do here, but the school bond measure is coming in and, you know, yeah, it's not gonna increase your taxes allegedly, and I get dollar for dollar, it shouldn't, however, that's still your money, and some of us pay different property taxes than others, so it does cost people more money, so there is, if you think about that money and come back to you, there is a lot going on right now. I want to revert back to the timing issue of everything, and yeah, would also stand behind the Tuffy and being transparent and putting it out there and I'll hand out flyers and send emails and do whatever we can to get the people to vote for it, because you are correct. I'm not against it. I'm just against how we get there.
Well, then I think it's time that we vote on the motion. So, Grace, would you read the motion made by Councilor Holt?
So, ordinance 555, let's see. An ordinance updating the Creswell Municipal Code relating to camping.
Do you have your microphone on?
Sorry, I don't.
That top piece, if she wants to read it from there. The top one.
So, she moved that the city council call a city election no later than November 5th, 2024, for the purpose of referring to the legal voters of Creswell, Oregon, a measure to adopt ordinance number 555, an ordinance amending Creswell Municipal Code Title 13 to add a new chapter adopting a transportation utility fee.
Okay, motion was moved and seconded. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, raise your hand. Motion fails. Vote of 4-3. So the floor is open, and I will make the motion that the council adopt the original version of ordinance number 555, which in section 4, the ordinance takes effect and becomes operative 30 days after the day on which it is approved by a majority vote of the city council. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Councilor Shuck. All right, the floor is open for discussion. There's no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes with Councilors Holt and Smith in opposition. We move from there to item number C on the council action items. This is liquor license renewals. And we begin with a public hearing. The City Council will hold a public hearing to receive public comments and testimony on the governing body's recommendation to either approve or deny the renewal of annual liquor licenses for the fiscal year 2023-2024. So if you wish to speak to the City Council on this item, which is the liquor licenses in the City of Creswell, please fill out a request for you to Grace, and we will open up the floor right now for a public hearing.
This is the last one.
Public hearing is now closed. So council, we are now acting on motion 6, item 6C, public hearing on 2023-2024 liquor license renewals and recommendation to Oregon Liquor Control Commission. And Grace, are you going to give the report on this item?
I will.
Okay.
Good evening. So before you, council, I have the annual liquor license renewals. Per Ordinance 521, we are required to have a public hearing, which we did hold. The renewal process begins in April. The Oregon Liquor License Commission sends a list of the renewals for the liquor licenses. I require a recommendation from Sergeant Speldrich, which is also included in your packet. We are required to give a recommendation to the OLCC by June 2nd of 2023. There are no financial considerations, and staff has no recommendation. The governing body must provide approval or denial. If you do deny a license, you are required in your motion to state the reason why you are issuing a recommendation for denial.
Thank you, Grace. So we have before us the renewals. On the back page, I believe it says there are 20 organizations in Creswell applying for renewal of their liquor license. We have the report from Sergeant Speldrich. Council members, do you have any questions for Sergeant Speldrich on the report? Looks like you're off the hook. Thank you for your report.
Sweet.
All right. Councilors, any discussion of this item? If not, then I'm entertaining a motion. Councilor Smith.
I move that the city council recommend either approval or denial of the 2000.
Which one?
Excuse me?
Is it a motion to approve or to deny?
A motion to approve.
All right, go ahead and restate your motion, please.
Pardon me. I move that the city council recommend either approval or denial.
Not either. It says either one. It says either, meaning you have the choice, but you need to decide which one.
Okay. Apologies. I move that city council recommend approval of the 2023-24 liquor license renewals as presented.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Councilor Osborne seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Council will proceed to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. That brings us to item 7, which is upcoming meetings. So I want to mention that the council work session is 2 weeks from tonight. It begins at 6 o'clock, and that's when we will continue discussion of the ordinance on camping in Creswell. And tomorrow night's budget committee meeting. So I'll see you all back here tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. And with that, we are adjourned.